Tales from the Slide Deck.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of, I almost said anything but qualified.
Yeah, totally.
Wow, we're off to a great start. Yeah, I did. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Slide Deck, the podcast we are totally recording. That's the name of our podcast. We did not forget the name.
No, not for a second.
I am Ryan. Huh?
It does apply to us. Like anything with qualified also does apply to what
It's
we're doing
true.
here.
It never left us.
Yeah.
I'm Taylor.
Yeah.
I'm Zach.
Oh, you're... And we have something a little bit different. We've been doing this for a bit, boyos.
We've
And
talked in a couple
we've
episodes
talked-
here and there, yeah.
Couple minutes.
A good handy couple hours. I mean, this will be coming out in between our 19th and 20th episodes, and even then, we've only been releasing them for a year, but we've been recording this for like over 2 years now.
Easily.
Whoa.
Just as a little like side project that then became this like, oh, I got another idea for this, and seeing what it came out to be. And in doing so, a lot of our episodes, even if we've left everything on the table and in the slideshow for it, there's always news, events, updates, things we forgot to bring up. So this is somewhat of a grab bag episode where each of us were following up on our previous episodes or
Yeah.
doing something tangentially related to an episode we did, expanding upon one, and I'm sure we'll each explain that when we get to our bits. So you're getting a definite layered casserole of an episode here.
Right. Some memories from previous episodes, some follow-ups, some new developments, some, a little just referencing or something new that has come up since we last recorded.
Or in my case,
Yeah.
something that I couldn't make a full episode out of. And was
Yeah,
too
see-
much to add to the episode that I originally did. So I just found a way to talk you boys. into
Like an
doing
epilogue, like an
episode.
epilogue
See,
story
Taylor,
of a
you and I
tangential
were on the
character
same
or something.
page. Yeah. Taylor, you and I were on the exact same page. Because mine is essentially expanding upon a bit in an episode that I didn't quite feel. I didn't have time to put it into the full episode before, and at the same time, I feel like I didn't nail what we were covering. I've decided to take the bullet and go first in this.
And goddamn,
to,
folks, we salute him.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Well. So we're gonna get into our episode, my little bit today, and we'll see if we're still recording this by the time next year rolls around.
We will.
Depending on-
It's
Are we talking 2025 or are we talking like November 17th?
We're talking November 17th,
2025.
1955, the day the flux capacitor was made.
Fuck yes.
But no, let's hop into it just so we get the ball rolling on this. Unless anyone else had anything to add to the intro, I kind of
No.
I tried to explain it. I didn't want to steamroll through it.
Nope. Perfect. Love it. Love it.
So, here we go, boyos. The Ghost of Westcott is the one episode that I was not the most happy with putting together, recording, or post-production. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. It is what it is, but it is something where, oh boy, we got lost in the weeds, and it became sort of a glorified slideshow of things I didn't like in a small sliver at a time at a theme park, and to rectify this, I thought the only way I could was to double down and do it again. But in a microcosm. So here's part two.
The best fall down and get back right up again and go right back at that.
Not to mention, if I'm remembering like what was like contemporary events around this time, we're in a whole different world.
It was the
now.
strikes. Yeah.
We're in a
we had the
whole
Disney-
different world. We were in like hey, Ron DeSantis, who could be the Republican nominee for president, is going to war with
yeah.
Disney World. And that shit feels like it was 8 lifetimes ago.
Don't even remember that.
That died 40 years ago.
The times they are changing, but let's hop into The Ghost of Westcott Part 2. a case study.
Okay.
We fucking can't have anything nice, so I'm so fucking sick and tired of this horse shit. Why not just build a new fucking ride? Suck my dick, Bob Iger. Seriously, fuck you.
Fuck you, Bob.
Couldn't have said it any better.
So we're going to get into this. Where we left off for the majority of the episode was 2001 with Michael Eisner opening up a new theme park in California, a Disneyland that is effectively 500 feet from the entrance of the other one. And we did somewhat of a tour of this early theme park, its faults, some points that I make and I will still make even as it gets quote unquote better, is this park feels cheap. It doesn't feel like it should cost the same as a ticket to Disneyland. Even with a park hopper, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it deserves like 80% of a Disneyland ticket cost. Like theming wise, it's all over the place and only gets worse as time goes on. It's a park in perpetual identity crisis, and there's just not a lot to do while you're there.
Interesting.
What
is the main attraction of California Adventure? Is it the Mickey Mouse roller coaster?
Well, here's the thing. If we're talking 2001, because that's the thing, is we're talking about this sliver of time. Your big ticket rides are roller coaster, and they got kind of a cool drop tower that was there for the first year. They got rid of that immediately. But
of course, it seems fun. So
yeah, I mean, everything in this park gets a facelift by the time we hit modern 2024 today. Your other big attraction, you have what Taylor loves to call the Brother Bear Mountain. You have the Grizzly Peak Rapids. It would be so much better. It would be so much more fitting if it was Brother Bear Mountain. But me editing out us arguing about it turned a 3-hour episode into an hour and a half. It's just a name.
Brother Bear.
Passion.
It's just
the passion.
And then we have Soarin' over California, our other big ticket ride down here, which is essentially just a show. But those are the 3 attractions your park's opening with. Are there other rides? Yes. Are there other things to do? Yes. We went over that. We ate tortillas. We played Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
We went to a princess breakfast.
We did all these things that is trying to fill out this hollow shell of a theme park. But as we left 2001, of course, we know what's going to happen. But this park could have been molded into something with possibilities. You have a lot of space, you don't have a lot of attraction, you have a lot of restaurants and gift shops, and how this park grows and changes with the times, it gets better, but we're talking like 1 to 2 notches better. When this park could have been something really special on its own, it's instead and will forever be the second park to Disneyland.
Right. I mean, Knott's Berry Farm was always the second park to Disneyland for me.
Oh yeah,
Universal Studios.
We went over this before. Like, a Universal Studios in California or a Knott's Berry Farm are both cheaper than 1 day to a California Adventure, and both you'll actually be able to fill out like an 8-hour day at the park.
Wow.
This
you can't do an 8-hour day at California Adventure?
Nowadays you can, but we're talking in this early era of the park, it's not there. So like with anything, even within its first year, ground starts breaking for new rides, new attractions, new parts of the park. And by 2004, they just threw a Tower of Terror in here.
Sick.
Which is
amazing.
Welcome to the hero. Welcome to the hero of this episode. We will be talking about the Tower of Terror.
Yes.
A ride in California Adventure specifically, but a ride that was not the first Tower of Terror.
Right, there was a whole movie like that was made about Tower of Terror.
Yeah, there was a made-for-TV movie to promote the 1994 opening of the Tower of Terror in the Walt Disney Studios part of a Disney World. But in this early 2000s, this end of the Eisner era, a good Band-Aid, I guess. If your park isn't doing well, we'll just throw a Tower of Terror into it. at the same time that they were building this one in California, they were building one at Tokyo Disney and Euro Disney at the time. Just
That's
as like a
amazing.
Band-Aid. Just as like we need a thrill ride. We need to we need to have something that's boom boom, big ride, flashy from the outside, theming, and definite something that can be viewed as a genuine like attractor, you know, like because right now California Adventure's just it's stringing itself along by the seat of its pants. And speaking of which, in 2004, just to mention, remember when we talked about that cute little rest area where like they had like some fake tractors and some fake cows. You could just kind of sit, do a whole lot of nothing. I know it's been a while, Zach. You're giving me this
It's
face.
been a minute.
Like,
Yeah. I totally remember. Yeah.
But to
Last-
fill space, they just had like a sit down area with like it's a farm. We don't know what to do. You know, we gotta make this park look more finished. By 2004, they've thrown in just like we'll throw in more kiddie rides with the Bugs Land.
A
Like
Bugs
we're
Life.
trying
That's a Bugs Life themed.
Yeah.
yeah. It was genuinely pretty well themed, all things considered. It was, you know,
All themes considered.
you walk around a corner. Yeah, all themes considered.
Yes.
Yeah. It was. I mean, but it was something. This park was shifting away heavily, even in its first couple years, from like a distinct California theming at any chance it could get. Like, I mean, we see all the hints of what becomes like a Cars Land and just all the amount of like Pixar shit that eventually gets pushed in this park, which are reduced still at cardboard cutouts essentially next to rides that have been there.
Well, are we seeing a Monsters Inc. area too?
There was that ride Hollywood Limo that we talked about last time that you rode around and you saw like a really bad Drew Carey and Jackie Chan.
Nice.
It's just a really shitty, forgettable ride, and instead they put over a new coat of paint, and now you see non-moving animatronics of like a Sully or a Roz or a Randall from a Monsters Inc. As you go around this, it's the same ride. You go around the same track.
Was this supposed to be like totally I know it's called California Adventures, but was it supposed to be like fully California themed to like a Santa Monica
elevator
park or
pitch.
something?
Yes. As when it opened, that was its whole like branding was we're going to be a little California inside actual California, which is the dumbest idea.
Is it? California.
It's pretty
Californians
dumb.
love California, and when you're in California, you want the California experience, right? You want to like surf a little bit. You want to like experience a sunset with palm trees or something. I don't know.
And herein lies my problem with Disney's California Adventure is they half-assed it in the California aspect and then have decided to step back from that and half-ass it in like 18 different things.
Yes.
You could have really leaned into the California thing, but instead, like, from the word go, once this place opens and it's financially not doing great, critically, absolutely, like, it's laughable in California. Mostly because you have a lot of locals who now feel like they can't come to Disneyland because Disney has put up a multi-million-dollar theme park that nobody wants to go to on top of a parking lot that was getting used.
Wow.
But
Feels like a bad generational timing. You have like people like my mother who are Gen Xers who are born in the like greater Los Angeles area. Right at the time of the dawn of Gen X, and who had the like classic Walt Disneyland experience, but they were now bringing their kids to like, hey, something totally new, this weird little side park that has a bunch of things that they're still trying to figure out.
yeah. But even like the whole purpose of this park was to draw more people away from a Knott's Berry Farm and an Orlando.
Yeah,
if
stay
we're
with
gonna
us.
talk about
Stay
this,
at our parks.
If we're Actually good parks. But this thing was made to like take even more of a customer base from them, and instead it was such a misstep that your Knott's Berry Farm, your Universal, basically all your other theme parks in the area could be like, oh well, now we see. Thank God somebody wrote the book on like how not to launch a multi-million-dollar theme park.
Yeah.
And how
It
not
wasn't
to
our
get
bad.
stuck
It
in
was-
this.
It was someone else did the bad work.
We got to see somebody else's bad and then watch them throw more money into a pit to try to like, I don't know, it's a Bugs, we're having a Bugs Life land. Like, I don't know, the kids like Cars, like, let's hope they like Cars 8 years from now when we have a Cars land.
And is there a
sort of
Disney
deal.
Channel stage? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, they would do like a Disney Playhouse. They had that's a stage there with that. You see your Disney Channel on stage. They also had like the Hyperion where you'd go and see watered down, smaller versions of like Disney Broadway shows and shit. And a lot of this was kind of petering in, but by the time you hit 2004 and the park's been open for 2 to 3 years, they're finding niches. They're finding like there's more shows at a California Adventure. There's more events. You start getting your food and dining shit. But the big Band-Aid, because they needed another Boom Boom Big Ride. And as we can see on the previous slide, if you look around at the land that they can use, your Tower of Terror essentially goes back up here.
Okay.
But they are very limited into they don't want to remove anything. They want a cheap Band-Aid. They don't want to remove anything and they don't want to develop too much. So they're just like, fuck it, it's a hotel, it works, it's a pre-existing ride. We're just gonna throw another one in there for the cheap. We're gonna skimp out on it as much as we can, and we're gonna make what I believe is Taylor and my favorite ride at any Disney park.
Oh?
Yeah, I'm getting a hang loose. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It is a wonderful experience that we will never have again, but we will be getting to that. Put a pin in thread in that. But yeah, moving on. Zach, I know, and I remember from last episode, you have not gone to a California Adventure.
Not in my life. No, the only time I've been to Disneyland, right? It's in California.
Yeah.
It was like, I would say 8 months before they launched California Adventure.
Okay. So I built this with you in mind.
Oh.
Just
Well, thank
so
you.
you could experience, because Taylor and I mean, Taylor's not as much of a Disney fucking nerd as I am, but Taylor remembers the line to a Tower of Terror because you probably wrote it about 15 times.
Been there 2 times, yeah, after it was opened.
Yeah.
And it was the hot ticket outside of, actually it was a hot ticket and then it was the second hottest ticket because I did go when they had a Cars ride. The second time. And so the Tower Terror was still ridiculous in terms of a like wait line. But wasn't as bad as the Cars ride.
In the times that I've been there, the handful of times since the Tower of Terror's been there, it's been a real wild card. Like it's either the ride that somehow every single time you're going by it, it's a 20-minute wait, or it's a 3-hour wait. Like there's no middle ground there. But
so
we're gonna walk you
crazy.
through it because Zach, and I cannot express this to you specifically enough. What I love about Disney is the amount of artistry and craftsmanship that goes into the theming that can make something as mundane as a line,
Yeah.
one, tell a story somehow, and two, hype up this ride that you're going to, the whole purpose while you're here, you're going to ride the ride.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a ride, like an adrenaline rush mechanism that just like rips you around so you feel like weird endorphins, right? And what a powerful thing that Disney, and I was just at Universal like a year ago at the Six Flags in Texas, and they had like a DC Universe area where you got to like have a Batman ride, that Mr. Freeze in a warehouse, and that was really interesting to like see how they built this whole like scene for just a ride, just like a roller coaster.
it's what turns your normal carnival, like, tilt-a-whirl into something a little bit more magical, and dare I say, not to sound like a Daryl Moffat, but a little bit more economically practical when you're like, okay, I spent $100 to get in this park, like, and this is what the line looks like.
Yeah.
Sure, like, okay, I know my money went somewhere at the very least. Let's hope the ride's good, but at least you spent the money on this. The Tower of Terror is set up to be like a 1930s Hollywood hotel where some scary accident, some spooky shit happened, and some guests disappeared. And as you're walking in, it's like you're going through like, oh, we just finally took the boards off the doors, and you're going in, in modern day to for whatever reason.
Who cares why you're there?
Not
But this is
explained.
what the scene is.
Well, here we're getting to that. But just as you walk in, you're kind of like, okay, cool. Design wise, looks great. It kind of has this spooky feel. Don't know what this is about. And then it's once they load you into the pre-show room, you finally really figure out what you're part of. Unless you were, paying attention to like, signs around the thing. This is a Twilight Zone episode that you are in a ride through.
Okay. Exactly. Interesting.
Which is so surface level fucking cool and perfect for if you're going to do a California Hollywood land. You nailed it. You nailed it. This ride is
Hollywood
going to
cinema.
transport you. Yeah, it's going to transport you not just to the golden age of cinema, but you're going to live out an episode of this spooky show.
Yes.
And it's much like it's only real comparison I can give, which I know is just going to piss Taylor off, is Haunted Mansion, because they're the same setup. You walk around a spooky place, you get a pre-show that tells you, hey, there's ghosts here. And then you get on a ride and you just sort of ride it to the end of whatever. But Twilight Zone is definitely the more like, no, it's a thrill ride. We're going to gut punch you. We're going to spook you. The amount of kids that I've had to listen cry in this pre-show room on the right, as like you go in and it looks like grandma's house and everything's warm and cozy and it's Disney-fied as fuck. So, like the lights go off, the rain's out the window, the lightning flashes, the TV comes on, do. Rod Sterling pops up.
Is it real like Twilight Zone branded type thing?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was 100% Twilight Zone
it's
branded.
Like they just removed the badge of Twilight Zone's
Not
Tower of Terror.
No, that's what the ride was called at the time.
Yeah,
Like it had name branding of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
it had name branding of Twilight Zone.
Wow. Okay.
When they were initially coming up with the Tower of Terror, because they wanted a spooky ride in Disney World for their then struggling Hollywood Studios park within a park. Go figure, they built the first Tower of Terror to attract people to some sort of thrill ride. And their thoughts were they wanted to do something based on a Stephen King. They had a couple ideas of like a Vincent Price-led like companion to Haunted Mansion. They know they wanted to do something spooky, and they just didn't know what. And they landed on Twilight Zone, and were able to essentially secure like the amusement park rights for it, because I don't think anybody else was asking for that combination.
It's an interesting
but
pairing.
Not at that time, no.
Yeah, they got the man back. They used old archival footage of a Rod Sterling. They had somebody dub over his voice in a convincing impersonation of the man.
Imagine
and
if you
Rod
will.
Sterling. Yeah, picture a world where they built a park directly across the street from the other park. They're competing with themselves. A mirror image, duality.
Ghosts of saints past buried here, waiting for your demise.
This was also
Yeah.
360 degrees around you in a room with a bunch of other like sweaty,
Yeah.
like strangers.
Oh yeah, you're in a
Decatur,
25
Illinois.
foot by 20 foot room with like 30 people that are sweating, and but just the presentation of it all, where you go from warm cozy hotel to now you are in a Twilight Zone episode is an instant, and It's the kind of shit that makes me geek out. It is the kind of shit where that makes me love these parks and the artistry that comes from it. Because I'm like, oh, it's Disney magic. Like within some rides take you a good, 15 seconds to a minute. You got to get into a vehicle or something, yada, 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 to transport you, in quotes, to this other world. And Twilight Zone does it essentially in the line and jump scares you with it. And it's great.
Like a Night at the Roxbury type thing. What if the club is the line to get into the club, and then the club is the outside of the club, right?
It's all the out. Yeah.
Precisely.
But so we go from this to our ride vehicle, which there is a lot of information on this top.
We got a lot
slide.
going on
I
right here.
apologize.
I see a state
We
flag
got a lot
of
going
Florida.
on. Hey, Taylor knows the state flag. I see the state
hey,
flag
can
of
I
California.
vote on the other one? I believe that is Montana.
I'll give you 3 guesses.
No,
It's Iowa.
very clearly Missouri.
That's Missouri.
But to walk you through what the ride actually is, Zach,
Okay.
You are loaded up here in the top center. You are loaded into a service elevator type box. It's got like metal grating on the sides and on the roof. You got a bunch of rusty seats. It sits about 20 people altogether.
I just found
what
Saddam. Oh my gosh.
we got our buddy down here in maintenance.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
I was gonna. No. I'm glad. I didn't want to point out to him quite yet. But you get into the elevator. We're gonna use the diagram for California here. You go up about 2 floors as like a Rod Sterling's, doing narration and booming voice around it as you're, in this elevator in the dark. You come up to a room, like the doors open. You see a hallway with some real spooky ghosts that we see up here. And then wouldn't you know it, lightning flashes, the ghosts disappear into the floor, and you end up dropping about 30 feet and then are shot up about 100 feet and then dropped about 30 feet and shot up about 50 feet in the dark.
Okay.
And it's exhilarating.
Oh yeah.
You are in a haunted hotel runaway elevator ride, and it nails everything it's trying to do on the checklist.
It's a Superman ride, but multiple times.
Yeah, you get even things we'll go into just briefly are like the variations, like with the Florida one that we'll get to. I could see why they didn't want to have this be the production model for California, because as we go here on the right side, you start down here in loading, you go up, and rather than just seeing some sort of show of, oh no, ghosts are in the hallway, it does something wonderful, but something that is prone to lots of mechanical failure. Your elevator car rolls out of the elevator.
It has to move like a mine shaft.
It
It's
moves
now a
like a
train.
mine shaft. It's now a train, but it's the kind of thing where if
Is
you
it
are
technical
riding
if you
this
put a
ride,
gun on it?
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
100%.
But it at 100%. But it's the kind of thing where you don't expect, if you were to get into a roller coaster, you don't expect the roller coaster to immediately like be put onto a truck and start going sideways off the track.
Right.
So you have this oh fuck moment that's so like Disney doesn't do this often. They did it in their Rise of Resistance new Star Wars ride, where they kind of have multiple phases of the ride and what it's doing.
Well, because there's a standard of mechanics like that we're standardly used to, right? As like a ride enjoyer, and so when you have something that's like, okay, it can only go up and down. Typically, everything just goes up and down,
and then
or I
you
can
start
see how it
rolling
goes
forward.
in a wave somewhere. So it's on a
Yeah.
rail, and then when it goes up and down, and then you're like, oh, now it's going. Whoa! It's going wide.
We're going down a hallway now.
Yeah.
Like it's
without
it's,
having to get
it's
into a
really,
new vehicle to do these kind of things. It's crazy.
Ladies
No,
and gentlemen,
no.
A y-axis is hit the
Mr.
building.
President, a y-axis has hit the ride.
It is fantastic. I'm bummed out that this was not included in any other version than the original Florida version, but it is also highly prone to maintenance issues.
I imagine, yeah.
So it's the kind of thing where monkey's paw. If it became the production model, sure, we might have a Tower of Terror that's never fucking open. But great when it is. And also you have two separate elevator shafts.
That's interesting.
In your Florida one, where it rolls from one to the other one, and then that's the one that jerks you up and down and up and down and up and down. And
but the
then
trick
you're
only
done.
happens once, then, right? So you initiate the ride
yeah.
with this like, what? There's a third dimension to this
But
ride?
They called it the fifth dimension, which I think is the dumbest thing in the world. But it's if we're talking about the level of excitement that you have, the amount of enjoyment that you can have in a ride, things that can't be quantified, the stats that aren't on the baseball cards, in essence. Having your ride pull a quick one on you and having your up-down ride suddenly go down a hallway,
Could do a left-right ride.
it puts you in a
Yes.
mind sense where you're kind of like, what the fuck's going on? Then it drops you. Is kind of it's kind of like, okay, no. The ebbs and flows.
The
of
rules
this
have been
ride,
broken now. It's like you're trying to figure out how the
Yeah.
magician did the trick. It's like I have never been duped like this before.
But any other version of that, especially the one that I love and care so much about, this California Adventure Tower of Terror, it doesn't have that gimmick. You just go up and down.
Flat.
But it still has its moment where the doors open, you see something spooky happening, the lightning flashes, and then you drop. So it gives you a similar but different kind of jump scare.
And do you have a graph here of the up and downs as it goes on?
I do. I do. Here's the thing. In California, it only had one ride pattern. It was going to do the exact same thing every single time. I don't have that graph on here. Instead, I just have the Florida ones just to compare. Florida had 4 different ride profiles.
Interesting.
Another big bonus. In the computer that they programmed, the heights that you go down and up and the pauses in the ride were on 4 different. It basically had 4 different tracks on the CD, and
It had New
you
Game
didn't
Plus
know.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could. It didn't open with those, but eventually, by the time that the California Adventure one was made in 2003-4, it had 4 different
They
ones
had
that
enough
it just
storage
cycled
for
through.
like 3 other kind of styles to do it.
Yeah, which is interesting because I mean that's something that you don't. I don't think they advertised it that well, but it's the kind of thing where even if you feel like you know what's going to happen in the spooky ride, it's an added bonus that things could be a little bit shaken up on you.
Real park goers know. That's the kind of thing. It's like it's an inside secret. It's going to be different every time. Maybe. I mean, 1 out of 4 times.
Yeah. One of my favorites is hearing reviews from people that talk about this one where the ride comes to a false ending and stays at the bottom.
Ooh.
For about 10 seconds and then shoots you all the way back up to the top and all the way back down one more time.
That's good.
I feel like-
I like a good false
Slow
ending.
clap. Like, good job, ride. Good job. You did what you were supposed to. But yeah, I mean, not just to. I love me a Tower of Terror. I've been on the one in Florida once, and it's okay. But I feel like I've ridden the one at California Adventure maybe, upwards of 20, 30 times maybe in my life. And it never got old. Even if it was the same pattern, even if you don't have your dumb 5th dimension hallway bullshit, it was still good. It was ours. It was fun to go to. It gave me a reason to want to go to California Adventure, where even at that age, I was like, this park's laughable. This is a waste of time. I would rather go wait in lines at a park I actually want to be at.
Yeah.
But as with all things, and it looks so good.
It does.
It's
beautiful.
I know I'm talking
I
about
always
it in
wanted to
past
go to
tense, and-
it sparked so much interest for me because I liked the idea of like an old haunted hotel. I loved the idea of that. And for there to be a ride that, I knew it just dropped you down, but
Yeah.
oh, what an aesthetic. What an aesthetic and a vibe.
It sells what it's trying to do inside and out unabashedly, and it nails most of them in a park that we've now spent upwards of 4 or 5 hours talking about just being cheap.
haven't cracked 10
prepackaged
yet,
rides with a coat of
hour-wise?
paint. What?
We haven't cracked 10 hours yet on Disney World. Disney.
Oh, we're getting there.
California
We're
Adventure.
getting there. On California Adventure alone, we're cracking quite a few hours. But I don't know, just other geeky shit. It is the tallest structure in Disneyland. It's taller than the Matterhorn Mountain by about 30 feet, but you would never know.
It's taller than
Just
Holiday
'cause-
Hill.
Yeah, it's taller than Holiday Hill. It is a big bastard. They probably get more light complaints from it than they do the fucking fireworks show every night.
I mean,
Because once this thing came up, you have to be in a, no matter where you are hotel wise, if you're staying in one of those hotels in like the ring around Disneyland, your view always has this bright purple fucking building in the way.
can confirm. Someone who stayed at a hotel in Anaheim and
Yeah.
saw both the Tower of Terror every night and also watched the Disneyland fireworks show, whether we were there or not.
Yeah.
But you got to use the
I know.
monorail to get into the place, right? Because you were close enough.
If we were smart enough to actually catch it on time. If not, we were just like walking our asses there in the early October, mid upper 80s, lower 90s degree heat of Anaheim.
The one time I've ridden the monorail, it has been much more of a hassle to ride the monorail than it was just simply walking the distance.
Usually on novelty
You
monorails.
kind of just do it for nerd cred,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Disney fucking
Well, there's always a
like,
tram
yep, I did it.
available.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a much quicker,
More
and much
efficient
more on
tram
time,
that's
like,
available.
more efficient. It's 4 wheels on the ground. It's not some fucking wackadoo train system that a Walt Disney was trying to come up with. Yeah.
This still stands, right?
Kinda.
We're getting there.
Okay.
We are getting there. In many ways, yes. But we need to fast forward a little bit because, again, I don't want this to be a long episode. So I could spend hours gushing. We could go through.
We can
could
go
through the entire
story
history of-
by story by story.
I could take you on the ride along through any version of it. But instead, we are going to jump ahead to the fine year of 2005, in which a Michael Eisner leaves the Walt Disney Company and is replaced by a Bob Iger.
Oh.
Boo. It says here, boo and hiss
Boo. Boo
in my
this
script.
It would have been during this era where I made my first visit to the California.
But yeah, did you know that Bob Iger was the one that essentially talked to David Lynch out of Twin Peaks?
What?
No.
I know. Now you can have your own hatred for this man. This was the guy.
Because I know with David Lynch, I think he's going to pass away soon. TBH.
Yeah, he's not. He's
He's
not.
on
He's not
oxygen
doing so
apparently, like constant oxygen. So we might be rounding third, heading home with a little David Lynch. Anyway,
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's
I don't want to
that's
live in a
real
world without
bummer in
David,
this-
without the possibility of a David Lynch flick coming out.
No.
But Iger, huh?
Sorry, but Iger, this sack of shit. We're gonna get a lot into Bob Iger as we continue on with Disney stuff in no particular chronological order. But oh god, the things that I'm going to briefly mention here are things that could have been their own episode, but I decided to power through and just include it anyway. Hey, did you know Disney bought Marvel?
What?
Sometime around 2012.
Did they buy Star
Sometime
Wars
around
too?
2009. It was in 2009 that
dang.
they acquired Marvel. It took a while for the ball to really get rolling on that. Of course, Marvel Studios had already made an Iron Man and a Hulk through Paramount, and there were lots of other projects that were coming to fruition to eventually get into that. But the Disney company acquiring Marvel in the middle of that is kind of to me, it's interesting because Disney could have sank this ship. It could have just canceled everything that was in progress and tried to build their own thing that was going on, rather than going with the Kevin Feige, yada, yada, yada. I have no hate for this Marvel universe, but it's just, it bores me.
Yeah,
This
is when I tuned out
interesting.
on
It's
it.
cool that it, but after Disney acquires a Marvel in 2009, decides to continue its projects, they run up to a wall, essentially, very early on, where they realize that Universal still has almost all of the Marvel characters' rights at their theme parks.
Oh, okay.
I believe in the Universal Studios in Orlando, I think they own forever until they sell them the rights to like a Hulk and a Spider-Man and a yada yada, all your big Marvel characters and everything else. So Disney is somewhat caught in a bind. They want to include this new IP in their parks and they don't know how they're going to fucking do it. And it takes them until 2016 to announce that they're finally going to start having Marvel, like, more than just things you could buy in a gift shop, but like, we're going to have Marvel rides. And
The Hulk is going to punch you in the face.
characters.
We're going to have him walking around the park punching you and stuff.
It's going to be so great. Everyone's going to love it. Doing research for this in the short amount of time I had, I am glad I found this gem because I found this Kevin Feige and a James Gunn announcing that they are going to open up a new Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Disneyland, making the first Marvel themed attraction at the Disney parks. And the crowd goes nuts. The crowd starts cheering. They're telling them, "Yep, and you get to see all your friends. We're gonna have a Groot and a raccoon, and they're all gonna be on a Disney ride." And the crowd's eating the shit out of it. They love it. And then they show them what we see on the right. They show them a piece of concept art, and the crowd cheers for half a second. And then goes quiet.
Oh, it's the same building. We're repurposing the building.
And then you have
New
have
paint.
murmurs. The crowd murmurs flood the crowd as things sort of like wait, I know that building. Wait. What are you whispering? I can't hear you.
Tower
Zach.
of Terror. Tower of
The
Terror.
the Twin Towers.
Tower of Terror. Tower of Terror.
The Lord of the Rings, the Twin Towers, and the president who believed the jet fuel could melt steel beams.
The Jelk fuel.
Everyone quickly realizes that even though it is only about at this time this thing's 12 years old, this amusement park ride, the Tower of Terror, widely beloved, viewed by many to be the only reason to go to a California adventure. They kind of go, well, we're going to turn this into a new ride. And thus we get a Guardians of the Galaxy mission breakout. A retheming that took 5 months, which is peanuts. A retheming that essentially they closed the ride down in January of 2017 and then opened it back up in May and went like, yep, we painted it obnoxiously big, bright colors on the outside. You're supposed to be on some alien planet. I don't know. You're in. We all remember this side character, the Collector, right? Everyone remembers a Benicio del Toro collecting things.
My favorite.
That's the ride. Is you're trying to help. You're with the Guardians as they escape him collecting things.
You're a hero, buddy. You're helping the Guardians.
And we've talked about rides in this and how there's the physical aspect of the ride. You're just getting whipped up and down. Doesn't matter what coat of paint is on the inside and outside. But it's like, if this was its own thing, it's okay. But it replaced something that really didn't need to be replaced.
It felt like a staple of the park.
It felt like it should have become an evergreen staple of the park. Why call the park Disney California Adventure if you're going to, build this and then destroy this like Hotel California Hollywood ghost story?
Which also
gave
it also gave you an opportunity to incorporate your spooky stuff in Disney
without
doing Oogie Boogie nights. Like the Tower of Terror, when you got out of it, you would get out and then there was the old 1950s song "We'll Meet Again," which is sort of if played on its own in sort of an echoey gift shop is very haunting. a song
Oh, yeah.
about like, hey, we'll meet again on the other side of life. That played as then you were able to walk around and like anything that was like kind of spooky in Disney, which didn't really have a place.
Oh, it was there
anywhere
in
the
that
park.
gift shop.
Yeah, like I bought a
Yeah.
Jack Skellington sweatshirt in the gift
Yeah.
shop at the Tower of Terror ride because it's like, well, there's really no other place for anything that's like kind of paranormal or spooky, so we're just we're to make the hot topic of Disneyland, the gift shop at the end of the Tower of Terror ride.
It facilitated many niches, like so many niches, and I'm not trying to be like, I don't know, I could care less if Marvel characters are at a Disney park. If Tower of Terror wasn't popular and after having some Marvel stuff for like, you know, a handful of years and you want to have more, sure, then retheme the ride. But it seems like, to me, Bob Iger essentially said, hey, everybody, we're getting a new puppy. It's going to be a Labradoodle because everybody loves Labradoodles. And then he points the gun at the actual family dog you already have.
Christy Gnome style.
Yep.
Like, it feels so unnecessary in that aspect of this. It's fun looking at message boards from the era because a lot of people go like, yeah, no, Guardians are cool, but we don't know how exactly you're going to retheme Spooky Hotel Drop Ride into a Marvel property. That seems harder than just making a whole new ride, you son of a bitch. But we got to get into, I could go off about the bad. At the end of the day, it's just a fucking theme park ride. But I miss Tower of Terror.
I already miss
mean,
it too.
Guardians of the Galaxy feels like an invitation to create a new Space Mountain, but with like blackjack and hookers. That's like way more exciting.
I think Walt Disney World or Euro Disney, Disney Paris, whatever the fuck it's called, is getting like a Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster. Like Tokyo Disney's getting a bunch of like Marvel themed stuff and like actual new big money thrill rides. But this was like their flagship, which makes less sense to me. Like make something new you can advertise and not just this thing. But we got to talk about improvements. Because there's a few silver linings to this. Hey, wouldn't you know it? They closed Tower of Terror down for 5 months, and then when they opened it back up, it has 6 different ride profiles, each set to a different song.
That's pretty cool.
Now the ride is
pretty nice.
That's pretty cool. You could go on the ride, and you know if you're hearing Burning Love, it's doing one sort of ups and downs. Instead of a hallway with spooky ghosts, the doors open up about 3 or 4 times. The ride is slower. It stops you. It opens up a door and you see a screen of like,
it's more David S. Pumpkins now.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's all David S. Pumpkins skits. The door opens and it's like, oh no, they're being chased by a monster. And then you go, woo, up and down. And then the door opens again. And oh, once you know it, Baby Groot's doing something cute. And
That's not Baby Groot.
It's not what I want. On its own, in a vacuum, I'm like, I'm okay with this. This sounds like a fun ride, but the fact that I know I can't ride Tower of Terror again pisses me the fuck off.
Wait, is it gone in Florida too?
We're gonna get there.
Oh, okay.
It still exists in Florida in its original state.
It seems super Italian in Japan.
Its days. Oh, we're getting there. Its days are numbered, though. It hasn't officially been announced that it's getting replaced with anything, but that entire Disney Hollywood Studios park in Florida, I know, mouthful.
Yeah.
Has slowly been more and more like Avengers shit. They're trying to turn it into their own Marvel theme park sort of area there. Which then makes the Tower of Terror kind of the odd man out.
I can't wait for the She-Hulk ride that they put in there.
Oh boy!
Another solid Marvel franchise that they can exploit into a ride.
I can't wait. Shang-Chi the ride.
Oh my god!
With any luck, more people will ride the ride than saw the movie, which wasn't bad. It's just we're just tired of superhero movies.
I can't wait for the Jessica Jones ride in Florida.
Oh my god, that's gonna be so much fun. I hope they replace Splash Mountain with it.
Do they have the rights to the Punisher? Because I'd like to see that being represented somewhere.
That would be really, Disney has a couple of those like laser gun rides where you're in a cart and you got a thing and you
An
pew, pew,
on-the-rail
pew, pew,
shooter
and it-
where you're
and
just-
On the real shooter, you have to kill police officers.
Murdering cops.
yeah, you're murdering drug dealers in the gritty streets of New York.
Yeah, sign me up today.
In a video game, I'd love that.
in a video game, I'd love that.
In a cartoon amusement park, I will. It seems so out of place. I gotta say yes. France has a carbon copy of the Disneyland, the California Adventure Tower of Terror. Has exact carbon copy except a French dub.
Oh,
So I guess
Oui, oui.
I guess I could go to France and I could enjoy myself a Tower of Terror, and it's just the way I remember it. But it's nice to see it exist somewhere. And then, oddly enough, Japan put this in their Disney Sea. They put this in like their water park
Okay.
that's next to their Tokyo Disney.
Whatever gets people in the park,
They stripped away the Twilight Zone theming of this.
Oh.
It's got its own little whatever pre-show.
It's an up and down hostess
story.
bar.
You gotta escape the cat maids. No, it's got its own little pre-show. It's still like a haunted hotel, but it's like New York themed, whatever. I mean, it's still cute. As with
It's Home Alone
anything
2,
in a,
Lost in New York, the ride.
yeah, that'd be Joe Pesci, have a Daniel Stern, just animatronics, just turning into a skeleton.
One of the floors, Donald Trump's directing you to the wrong area that you need to go.
Of course. But I guess, it's the Tower of Terror gone, but not forgotten in any sense. It's replaced with a ride that's okay. It's just sort of a micro example of the macro of Disney's California Adventure, which is a park that continuously cheapens out on what it's trying to provide. It swings wildly with what identity the park as a whole or even individual areas of the park are trying to do. It's constantly stuck as like a money pit where you have great Disney designers and engineers and everybody who kind of comes forward and they're given 70% of the budget that they need. And 70% of the time that they need to put something new in there. And sometimes they shine. Sometimes, like a Tower of Terror, they shine. But gone, but not forgotten. This was a photo I found on a Reddit fairly recently where somebody was riding the Guardians Breakout, and and while they're in their elevator car, they passed a lift cab control box, which is still labeled Tower of Terror, Disney California, Adventure.
Never forgotten.
Nice.
Never forgotten.
Never
Still
forget.
labeled that on some switchboard in a dingy office of Disney. It's still labeled that on the breaker box. So you never know. There is a chance it might get refurbished and redone, but I heavily doubt it. Not in my time. And there's still other ones that you could go do. But yeah. Honestly, I don't know how to end these California Adventure ones because the adventure always will continue for us. There's so many rides. There's so much other shit. There's so much more to shit on Disney than just California Adventure, but California Adventure will always be the wet paint park to me.
I've never seen tubes on the roller coaster. What's that about?
Didn't you know they completely rebranded it as the Incredibles roller coaster?
Yep.
They turned it from generic roller coaster and get this, they added tubes and then they added some like voice clips that play in the speakers, and it's an Incredibles roller coaster now.
Yeah, the Incredicoaster.
It's that easy. It's that easy. They just took off one coat of paint and put on another hat and went like, "Yep, no, this is the theme we're going for, I guess."
But they left the fucking mouse on the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, it was an ugly sun, but now it's a mouse.
It's
get
our
there.
official mascot, Slide Deck Willie.
Yeah, Slide Deck Willie.
Yeah. He just needs a Bobby like his dad.
Legally
dead
not
one.
trademarkable Slide Deck Willie.
Slide Deck Willie. But yeah, that's my little follow up.
W, nice.
Again, yeah, can't get enough about talking about this rat trap, especially this small corner of it.
But I am ready to move into my section.
Who are you?
I'm Taylor.
Oh,
Sorry.
hi Taylor.
I did introduce myself at the beginning of the
Right,
podcast.
but now we're in a new segment. We're back
That's a
from.
life.
We're in a new segment. You're presenting yours, and just like the room is yours. I want you to feel welcome, and I want you to feel like the stage. You can do what you need to do.
Fair enough. My brain chemistry's been all over the place.
It's been a day. It's been a day.
Ready to get it going on my presentation. The title of which was just like Tay Rob's contribution to the collaborative news update episode.
Kind of wordy, yeah.
Some
Fucking
insanely
Soviet
fucking long.
name.
Yeah. But I guess what we're going to entitle Chapter 2 as would be a quote. It is good artists borrow, great artists steal. Quote of Pablo Picasso, comma, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
We do not know if that is something that came out.
It's
of the mouth.
attributed to him.
It's attributed to him by a lot of dumb people on the internet.
Yeah.
And they could be right.
I also heard that Alexander Graham Bell said insanity is the doing the same thing 100 times over again.
That'd be Alfred
But
Einstein.
it's like I've heard it as Alfred Einstein, Alexander Graham Bell. I've heard it as
Who's Alfred Einstein?
Alfred
boys? Einstein.
Einstein is the butler to Batman. Okay.
Okay.
The guy that wasn't the first president of Israel, along with Albert Einstein.
Alberto Einstein, though, that's
That guy
makes a
is
mean
the,
pasta.
Nephew of Mexico's current president. Just want to say, at least 1/3 of this podcast, big endorsers of President Scheinbaum.
Nice.
Love what you're doing. But yeah, so I just wanted to take a quote that everyone kind of fucking knows, because that's going to really cover a large portion of.
Hey, whoa,
topic we're gonna cover
before
today.
you click that. All right, yeah, I thought your finger was on the trigger here.
It wasn't.
I want to talk about these logos.
Yep.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, Baojun,
Yeah.
beautiful logo. I love it. I love what they're doing with space here.
It's so good. Almost another auto company did that as their logo.
Great Wall Motors. I love
Yep.
that it
I do
reminds me
like
of
Great
Star
Wall
Wars.
Motors. Yeah.
And Ba.
BAW.
Yeah.
It's Thursday night, bah!
Thursday night. By God. By God.
I hate the bah emblem though.
I hate that it is an husky-sized Mercedes-Benz logo.
It's an AI generated just give me car logo. It's Mercedes.
I feel like I've
three
seen this
logos
in
on
like a
top of each other.
PS2 early gen game as cutting-edge graphics for a hubcap.
No, this is definitely what you would see on the side of a vehicle in Grand Theft Auto 2, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto China Town Stories, Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. You know,
How many
all
can
of
we name?
those have these auto companies. involved
Also,
with them.
Great Wall Motors. I love that name because we come from a place that just makes their money off of Cascade, being around the Cascades, and I now live in a place that makes their money off of Lone Star. So, like, to see Great Walls to be one of those objects of like, we're gonna base it off the thing everybody knows. Great Wall Motors.
Also, just to acknowledge
Yeah.
this episode, I am physically in a different location.
Oh yeah.
Normally, when you're listening to
yeah.
my voice, dear listener, I am sitting.
It's bouncing off of
roughly-
Ryan's sweet body.
Yeah, 4 feet away
Yeah.
from the wonderful Ryan Ohlmeyer. But no, this time around, I am in the independent nation state of Tejas.
Yeah, he came down to the Dallas studio to record this one.
We're only 113 miles away.
We're not going to tell you the direction because it's Oklahoma. We're in
'cause
Oklahoma.
We're not doxing. We're in Oklahoma. We are in the Choctaw Reservation. We're recording this from the casino, dear.
Ching, 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 ching,
Whoa.
ching, ching, ching. No,
Yeah.
someone hit the jackpot. Oh my gosh.
But goddamn, are the locals very proud of that song about how the stars are bright, big at night, deep in the heart of Texas.
We went to two Texas sporting events and they played it at both of them.
Went to 3, and like they almost sang it at the second one,
This is
I
which
can-
was the
understand
universal Jake
sporting
Paul
events.
Mike Tyson fight.
What's that, Ryan?
I can almost understand. I can like almost understand sporting events, but like, does it just play in like speakers outside?
No,
you're out
not
and
like that.
about.
No, it plays like the Star Spangled Banner. We have a moment where we play the song and everybody appreciates the deep in the heart of Texas.
And if you say the word stars in
Oh
anything you're
my
doing, people are gonna scream.
You know, frankly, we're in the nation of freedoms and let people be people and do stuff like that and don't step on my flag. But when they do the national anthem, when stars comes up, every 2 times it comes up 2 times the national anthem.
You just hear
Everybody
like a
yells
deep in the
stars.
heart.
Stars. And it's like, that is actually fucking disrespectful to the song, everybody, if you don't know. But whatever.
Wow.
Like, I care about the song. As
I'm
if.
liking Texas lore.
Yeah, Texas lore.
It's an interesting place. It's great for driving and sports and chicken.
Big 3.
Nice.
Big 3.
The big 3. The big
Father,
3.
Son, Holy Spirit.
But anyway, let's go ahead and explore something that I've touched on extremely briefly in an extremely different episode. China and cars.
China.
China and its vehicles. So first off,
Oh,
we're
I
gonna
love
dive
it.
into a little Chinese automotive
Nice.
history.
Full functional.
So this is, the number 2, arguably making their way to number 1 global superpower. And so, hey, cars, it's a big thing around the developing worlds. And so we have China. It's a country. It's rapidly developed.
Some would say it's several countries wrapped into one, but
Some may.
we're not here to be political.
But those people go to work camps. Instead, we'll talk about China. Chinese automotive history is not incredibly short, but it is somewhat relatively short comparatively to other Western nations, those that we're familiar with. The first car ever purchased in China was in the year 1902.
Okay.
It was a Mercedes-Benz Simplex, not pictured here on this slide.
German?
But
Was it a German car?
It was a German car. Wow. Yeah, they did not have their own domestic automotive manufacturer.
There wasn't one dude in a garage just like, I've heard about this thing. I think I could make that.
I don't honestly. In
I
the
could
year
put a motor on a
1902,
cart.
I don't know how many garages there were.
My
in-
wife has a
in the
motor on
nation
her
state of
mouth. I
China.
can definitely put one on a cart.
I
mean-
could put so many motors on this cart.
Absolutely, yeah. If the My Wife mobile
Wife.
would have possibly been the first automotive vehicle, and the first limitless energy, the first green energy vehicle that possibly could have
Could've
ever
saved the
existed on
world.
Earth. But unfortunately, there's just too much strife. We have multiple wars in this region of the world. We have the 2 Sino-Japanese wars. We have a Russo-Japanese war in this area. It's not great. It's all generally considered this place called Manchuria at the time. And so not
love
great
it.
at all. But in
Strong
In
people, terrible place, terrible times.
just to tie into a different episode that isn't even mine. But in 1902, the Mercedes-Benz Simplex, which was at the time a luxury / race car.
1902,
This is the
you said?
era. Yeah,
They were naming them, like giving them like government names at that point.
Yeah, cars effectively didn't exist for they were less than a decade old.
And they were already like, I'm calling that one the Destiny. I'm calling
they
that
bought-
one the Ricochet.
They bought from the OG. Mercedes-Benz was the first creator of the consumer automobile in Germany, that then later formed Daimler Mercedes, state of Germany. But when it was just Mercedes, the Simplex, which was at the time a race / I guess production vehicle, it was purchased by Chinese general and dear listener. I'm going.
Oh,
to
let's
slight moment
go.
of
I
time.
love it.
Take
It
a
has been-
stab.
It's
Take a
been
stab
called
at
out
it.
to me, and something that I fully understood from the beginning of this. that my cracker ass has no capability of pronouncing names and locations. I fuck up Dorican. I fuck up Obachan. I am white as fuck. The 23andMe I can upload to prove that fact. So I'm going to mispronounce a lot of things in this particular update episode and in future episodes as well, because I'm stupid, I'm white, I'm American, and I only speak one version of English.
The right one.
But
Bad English.
But in the year 1902, Chinese General Yuan Shikai, in an effort to impress the Empress Dowager Shixi, I believe is how that is pronounced. That is the first opportunity I'll have to correct my ass. He bought her the first car that had ever been purchased in the state of China. In 1902. Wow. 122
Hell of a
years
gift.
ago. So, things it was a extreme luxury good.
Totally.
It was something that like a rich person with political ambitions has bought as a like flashy peacocking present to another person who has more political power and more.
And I forget, but we should reiterate to the dear listener that there were roads already at this point. It's not like this car was being dropped off in the middle of like a Sahara where there was no pathways or anything for it to drive on, right?
Not great roads, but
I
yeah,
knew there were
some
cartways
roads.
and pathways and everything
Yeah.
already
Yeah, people have been
established
moving carts and pathways
for like a Brazilian years.
And there was even a few trains in the state of China. Like the British Empire had shown
Oh,
up
that's
here
right.
and had their interests. That's where we get Hong Kong from. But yeah, so, and that actually quickly exploded as well. The British, they continue their imperial occupation of China. And in the early 20th century, prior to World War II, Ford, General Motors, and Mercedes all had plants in Shanghai.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wait, by when? 1940s?
This is in the industrial period.
Oh.
I'm not. This is like between 1902 and World War II,
Okay.
1939. So we have a 27-year period here where there are no cars being made that are from China, but there are being imports elsewhere in the world for those who have the means to bring in a foreign automobile.
Means?
And there were British vehicles, all sorts of things that were brought in here, but these were the foreign companies, and this will be something that may come up later on.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Foreign companies
wow.
that had a manufacturing interest within the state of China prior to World War II. And then finally we come to now roughly 29 years later, we have in 1931 the Mingsheng 75 truck, the first automobile to be produced domestically within China.
I love it.
Yes. It was
I
made
love it.
on May 31st, 1931, from the Liaoneng Motor Factory in Shenyang, China. And it was produced actually by an American who dreamed
That's right. Red,
up-
white, and blue, baby. Red, white, and blue, baby.
Yeah. Daniel
He
F.
dreamed up
Myers dreamed up this vehicle.
This one, the unprotected flatbed. He's
I
like,
was going to make the joke. Yeah, no, he came up with this design in a dream, but no, apparently so.
a lot of kindergartners have also come up with this design in the dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much. There are some other prototypes. It never made it out of the prototype phase, but there are some that have like actually a cab with a roof and a windshield, and even some very much so stereotypical Chinese pagoda rampart signs on the roof. I went with the one that I felt was most historically
It looks
accurate,
nice, though.
which is the one that we see in front of us here. But yeah, an American who was just sort of like an enterprising guy at the turn of the 20th century who made his way over to China, had just met up with people who worked in a mortar factory who were not necessarily like super in like favor of the fact that the British were there, but like the British had brought some industry. And so he's like, hey,
Hubba hubba.
there's all these automotive vehicles going on in Western Europe and America. Like, what if we built one over here? Like, we have all of the resources. We have the steel. We have all of the various ores that we need. We have wood. We have the ability to grow rubber. We can make a vehicle. And that is the Mingsheng 75 truck. It had a water-cooled, which is, for the time, is actually a pretty, like, advanced piece of technology. Cooling of an engine, whether it be like through a radiator and water cooled, which is what everyone drives nowadays, or whether it was air cooled, which was you have an engine and it's in a place where the air that's blowing by it while you drive the car cools the engine down to an operating temperature that actually like won't make the engine blow up on itself. It are all like that was the technology of the period. So like having a water-cooled, like, radiated, jacketed engine, pretty, like, revolutionary for the time.
Totally.
Yeah. Sophisticated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had, like, roughly, like, 48 horsepower, which, you know, in the 1930s, ain't nothing to sneeze at.
I don't have 48 horses.
It's insane. You definitely have 48 horses. But,
I just looked outside the window. I do not have 48 horses in my farm.
I can look out the window of everyone, where everyone lives, and everyone's got 48 horses under the hood, if not more. Like that's just modern vehicles, kind of. But unfortunately, war were declared.
We'll always get in the middle of a good thing.
Every single time.
So, you know, 8 years after this vehicle was produced, and actually not even before that, but in 1939, World War II pops off. But before that even, the Japanese, who I have talked very favorably
You have, yes.
in their automotive programs, had decided that they didn't want the Chinese to have an automotive program. So in the waning day, the last day of May 1931, they rolled the first prototype off of the factory at that mortar plant, and that was the Mingsheng 75 prototype truck. And then that truck and the plant that created it were blowed up.
No.
By the Japanese.
No.
Oh, no.
It's like, look at this beautiful cake I just baked, and then your house gets bombed or something.
Exactly.
Oh.
You made this
My
wonderful
life's
truck.
work.
But unfortunately, war were declared. Japanese blew up the factory, and that effectively ended the Chinese domestic vehicle manufacturing process.
R.I.P.
For some period of time. I mean, we all know how things go. There was World War II. America supported our Chinese semi-communist
Because they were
allies
getting beat down by our enemy,
by the Japanese. Yeah.
Now friendly.
So we sent the Flying Tigers over. We sent guns. We sent planes. We sent vehicles over to the time. And, you know, some of that was utilized and, you know, examined by who would be the new management. Next slide.
Oh
We have a
my
change
God.
in management.
Hey,
the
remember
new-
that
the
face
new
on the right side? It's
management.
coming up later.
It's coming up now. So, you know, China, after World War II, there was a lot of things happening. There was a lot of things happening in their region of the world. They weren't all that, like, geographically removed from the Soviet Union. And you have some people who do, like, you know, a civil war and a revolution and a long march.
You have a revolution. You have, you know, declaring rights.
As you do.
As one does. As a developing, you know, established country does.
And then 39 years before I was born, on October
Mark your
1st,
calendars, everyone.
Yeah, October 1st, 1949, Chairman Mao, the gentleman on the right, for those unaware, proclaimed the establishment of the People's Republic of China.
Although, if you were looking at those two and you were to guess which one was Chairman Mao,
That would definitely
Ask a
still be the
space
dominant.
alien which one.
Yeah, a space alien, which one's Chairman Mao. I still think a space alien would go with the guy on the right side, but that's just me.
Mr. Marks?
Yeah.
I said right. I said right.
Yeah, the guy on the right. 100%.
And dear listener and my co-host, this is not an examination of the.
We're not going to get into it.
The socialization of the nation state.
Well,
of
that's
China.
fair. Well, that will
I'm
come
here
up.
for
I
it.
definitely have an episode about that.
There's nothing that I can do that would in this amount of time that I'm allowed in this episode that would be sufficient.
Do you guys remember
to
how we
cover
talked
that.
about the Cuban Revolution and we just had to summarize that to like an hour and a half? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not doing communist
We're not
China.
going to do that
okay?
with China. No. But anyway, we have a change in management in China. Britain, the old dying empire in Europe, no longer has control over it, and America can't quite get their claws into it. They're a little too focused on what's happening in Western Europe with the Marshall Plan, and they're a
Wait,
little
what's
too
going on in
focused
Western Europe?
Well, the Nazis are defeated.
Oh, what?
We have our teammates, the Soviets, who showed up.
Our teammates that were our enemy at one point, right?
They will become.
But they
our
were
enemy.
they were bad guy that became good guy that became bad guy again, or
Nope, they were just
Oh.
they were just like an opportunistic.
dang,
ally at the
I
time.
misremembered history a little bit. There,
Yeah.
sorry.
As everyone says, World War II was won with British intelligence, American industry, and Soviet blood.
Red, white, and blue.
Yep. Yeah, I guess. I mean, each country has red, white, and blue in their flag.
At least
so,
one.
Yeah, you can call it. But yeah, so World War II comes to an end. And then a year later, China has a change in management. The people that America was backing, they lost.
What?
Their hyper-nationalistic forces inevitably fled
Oh,
to
no.
Taiwan, and I promise that will never become relevant
Ever.
in history
No.
ever fucking again.
Completely
It is
forgotten
not
about.
currently.
Never an issue.
No, never once again.
Hey,
The-
remove
the
that
fact-
pin. Take that pin out. We're not putting a pin in it.
The fact that a
We're
Western
gonna put it in a
imperial
big
force,
drawer labeled Taiwan.
Yeah. The fact that a Western imperial force didn't back the worst fucking candidate won't ever appear in history ever again. But yeah, so China is a different state. They're under the CCP, the People's Republic of China. And unfortunately for Mr. Mao on the right there, I'm not going to talk too much about Mr. Marx on the left. I just wanted to include him because that's kind of where it all
Usually
kicks
people
off.
tie the two together. Yeah.
But during the it's 1949, October 1st, 1949, the People's Republic of China is declared. And then for the next 2 decades, the 1950s and 60s, not a lot of great industry happens, especially when it comes to the aspect of personal vehicles. Unfortunately, that isn't an immediate transition. You have a lot of things that people would point to about the millions dead of the cause of communists. You have communism. You have the Great Leap Forward, and the several 5-year plans. You have the 100 Flowers campaign. All of which I am going to glaze over directly right now, but it does not result in many passenger vehicles.
And
That is
at the end of
but
the day,
one
we
of
could
the
talk
many
about the
outcomes.
millions dead. We could talk about the protests, but did
Not gonna
not
talk about
result
that.
in any
We're gonna-
cars being made.
We're gonna talk about the
That's where
cars.
our heads are at right now, guys.
We gotta stay focused.
Exactly.
During the reign of Chairman Mao.
Yes. Yes.
Chairman Mao.
Yes.
Chairman Mao. The primary focus on automotive production from the state of China. This isn't imports. This is vehicles that are made
Does
using.
the state of China border Iowa, or does it border Wisconsin?
It currently borders both, but that includes something called NAFTA
Okay.
and the World Trade Organization and a bunch of other things that we're not going to get into in this episode, unfortunately. But yeah, so it's mostly military vehicles that are produced during the reign of Chairman Mao. He steps down in 1959, or the Dengus step up. And by the time 1985 rolls around, the nation of China has only produced like by its own factories with its own raw materials, its own workers, 5,200 vehicles.
Wow.
Wow.
And to put that in
Yes,
perspective,
please.
think about the Toyota Camry.
Yes.
In the course
Okay.
of less than a week, Toyota produces more Camrys than the nation state of China did in 36 years.
Well, wow. Well, wow.
Just
Where
Camrys.
were they like? What do you know of like the importing situation? Like, because they had to have
Yeah.
vehicles.
They did. You're right. They absolutely did have to have vehicles. They had the Zhongfeng, which was a like kind of copycat of the GMC half track or the GMC like dual axle that you see from like World War II footage, where
Okay.
like that's the thing that carries the men to the battlefront. It's a rugged, capable off-roader. And then when it came to military, less so, but like passenger vehicle for those who had the extreme wealth be able to afford one during this very agrarian transitional economy in China. A lot of that came from the Soviet Union.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. You said it was when, what, 30-something years?
36
From what
years,
period
yeah.
to when?
From when the revolution was declared won on October 1st, 1949,
Okay.
and the people
To the
Republic of
70s?
China, all the way into the 80s, 1985. 3 years before this host was born.
That is an incredible span of time.
Yeah,
And that's
currently
5,000 of all of their cars.
Yeah.
Like every model,
5,200 vehicles.
all together.
This is
Gotcha,
military
gotcha.
vehicles. This is passenger vehicles.
Oh,
This
even
is,
military. Okay.
You know, fun things like golf carts.
All of essentially all of American history occurred during that time period. I feel like, oh my gosh.
I guess the important parts of it, yeah.
It's
from
like, you had the peace and love movement of the hippies. You had Vietnam
60s.
War. You had
Disco
happened. Everything involving cars in America, and China's just like, we're gonna import it all.
the entire Eisenhower administration.
Exactly.
Yeah, Vietnam.
JFK.
As the
Life and
clock
death.
as the clock keeps on ticking, there's just the one guy in China who's just like, I just want to make cars. My chances are slim.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. But then at the tail end of the 70s, in 1979, there is a change of both government. I'm not going to like cover it on this slide, but Chairman Mao has stepped down, and he has let sort of a next generation lead
The
the
TikTok
revolution.
generation.
Yes. And then in 1979, the reform of the first law of joint venture using Chinese and foreign investment allowed for the fact that foreign companies could now come into China and produce goods. Like this is this is sort of the like beginning of our generation's troubles here in the Western world. How the Western world sold off its labor and its IP off to, you know, the CCP for incredibly cheap labor. They had a lot of people, and they didn't have a lot of like industry and technology, and so they were just willing to throw people at the problem. And so that's what they did. And you had these Western companies who were willing to take a 49% stake in the goods and the vehicles that were produced during this period of time. A Chinese company had to own 51% ownership, but you could now bring in foreign IP, foreign technology.
The ideas are now on their shores.
Things that could now come to the area. And this is when, you know, you begin to see like the death of the labor
Yeah.
in America. Like
Hey, it's
there's
back.
a-
I heard. Apparently, somebody told me that it's back.
in some way, shape, and forms, yes. Like more in like a
Yeah.
like 1910s sort of way, more than a 1970s sort of way. But yeah, so this is the cycle that we go upon. Western capital was able to just exploit incredibly cheap labor, which then, you know, allowed them to cut their labor costs, which then, you know, fucked over various industries in the Western world, not just America, but, you know, the UK, France, Germany, everyone that's part of the Western Empire. But yes, so at that point in time, that's when the vehicle companies were allowed to establish and set up a base of operations because they wanted access to the Chinese and Southeast Asian market, a rapidly developing in terms of population market that would both provide a cheap source of labor and a growing population. But inevitably, at some
Need their
point,
products,
create
right?
demand for your goods.
That's crazy. That's insane to like have at your hands is the idea and the process and the need and the establishment of gathering the raw materials and making the production, and then all you have to do is go to this other place and say, this is how you do it. Now give us 49% of the income that comes from that. And all of your people are going to buy this stuff because they need it. Guess what? All of our people have needed it. So now you have the idea, and we're just going to profit off of giving you that idea. We're not going to give you the labor source. We're not going to give you any of the means of production. Nothing like that. We're just giving you the idea.
And that's effectively like, the end result of the Great Leap Forward. The Chinese like philosophy of like, we are going to focus, instead of being an agrarian country that has farmers and like, rural agricultural peasants producing things, we are going to rapidly industrialize. And so we are going to put more of a focus on like raw material production, like steel, lumber, things of that
Heavy
nature.
labor.
And, it resulted in a pretty serious fucking famine that inevitably like led to a change in who was chairman of the time. But by the time it's the 80s, baby, like Nixon has already done ping pong diplomacy. Here we are. We're one world fucking government. The new world order exists. And so the cheap labor pool can produce all of the goods that the consumer class, who are now have transitioned into more of an information-based economy, can buy on Amazon and at Walmart and Costco incredibly cheaply. And so their lives never get better. But hey, their treats come cheap and readily available, so they're not going to complain.
And there's always going to be a
And
new
that's
one.
going to be that way forever.
I don't know.
Never going to lead to an inevitable fucking
Oh,
death
I
march
get
towards
you.
fascism.
I get you. Yeah.
Nope.
That we're not currently on at all as a country, but here we are. But because of the fact that all of this Western industry and all this Western IP, there are people who are
IP is
people.
intellectual property.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is the idea that you come up with that you're somehow able to trademark and make all your own so that you can produce value out of just your idea and not the actual like sweat of your
Which
brow
is
in
crazy,
creating the
because if I
product.
just said to you guys, hey guys, I just had a thought. Pay me a bunch of money to know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome to
No,
IP
that makes
culture.
sense. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Welcome
gotta
to
be a
patent
good thought,
trolling.
And it's like a gigantic
Welcome.
payout, and then like, oh, it turns out that idea actually sucks ass.
It might.
Elon's tunnel in Las Vegas.
More often than not, it will. But sometimes it's pretty fucking good. And that's kind of where it leads us into our next
Finally.
slide here. A concept called shanzai.
All right.
What a
We've
beautiful
done a
picture.
lot of castles so far, guys.
Uh-huh.
This is a very pretty one.
It is.
Is this part of the Great Wall, or is this?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think she's solo. I think she's single. If you're looking to,
Yeah, it like if you look in the foreground, there's nothing connecting that rook
No,
or
yeah.
rampart, and there's nothing in the background.
shut up. Is
connecting
Rook
that.
the name of the end of a castle?
The tower in chess? Yeah, it is.
Yes.
I'm gonna sit with myself for the next 10 minutes, guys.
No worries, boys. But anyway, shanzai literally translates into mountain stronghold.
That was my nickname in
Mountain-
high school, by the way.
It was. I was there.
It's because I
was
drink
great.
a lot of Mountain Dew.
This is a poor English translation. What we would maybe more consider it here would be like a thief or bandit camp. Because like during the times of like imperial China, there were those who lived outside of the boundaries of law. And so they would have to run out into the mountains, much like our American bootleggers, the Scotch-Irish, the Appalachians of the time. Like if you want, or even early organized crime in America, if you want to get away with the illegal shit that you're doing, go to places that are inconvenient to get to, which is often on a mountain. And so Shanzai is sort of a philosophy that is like centuries old within China, but is relatively new to us here in the Western world. And so we have this concept of mountain fortress, bandit camp. That is the language of which it is described in its homeland. But us in the Western world would better understand it as also Shanzai, which is Chinese knockoff products. As you can see in front of us, we have an
Adibos
shoe.
Mike.
We got a Mikey.
I like Mike.
Yeah.
I like Mike.
Yep, we got Sunbucks coffee.
The classic
we got
Obama, Harry Potter.
Exactly. We got Michael Soft
favorite.
Bimbos.
Polystation. Nintendo Polystation.
We've got
Which
the
is
Nintendo
my new D&D name.
Polystation.
Yeah.
And we have the nameless company Game Child. It's super woke, folks.
It's super woke.
It's not a boy. It's not a girl. It's genderless. They're using Game Child. But this is what most of us understand is like Wish.com or Temu nowadays. The the middle of the road, middle American understanding of the Shanzai philosophy is a cheap Chinese knockoff of a Western name brand.
Well, when we say
good.
cheap Chinese knockoff, we're just saying it is created with the same idea, same IP, but
in
it
the
is
same
used
factory.
with cheaper materials, cheaper labor, cheaper time, all these things that you skimp out on when you're trying to deliver quality, right?
I mean, the factory's running. You have the labor.
Computers on.
there.
Might as well keep the tab.
So wait,
open.
so are you telling me there's two products going out of one like warehouse door essentially, where you have the actual name brand, a Game Boy, and then somebody's just got a bunch of these shells and these like throw something in, or your Adidas and your Nike.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, like if you go to Eastern Asian countries or like Russia at the time, you could find your Nintendo game stations, which are just a PS1 ripoff, or your Mike brand shoes, or your Sunbucks coffee. Like they're making the product there. Like the manufacturing has already been exported to the third world, and in this case to China. At the time, during their like great period of economic development after the great leap forward, where they've decided like, yes, we'll just take in all Western manufacturers, and then cool, we'll make the units that you're demanding of us for the IP that you're allowing us to have access to. But we're also going to make a lot more. Instead of some SB Dunks in the middle there, we're going to make some mics. And we'll sell them in the markets that you're not selling your product to because it doesn't seem worthy of it to you. So we get to double dip, and we also get to keep our people employed. We're giving them money. We're putting money in their pocket that they can then spend and generate and further the economy, which then leads to more like tax dollars, which then lead to public works. These ghost cities that are no longer ghost cities. These high-speed rails that were just fucking train tracks to nowhere. If you were reading Forbes.com articles in 2011 that were dunking on ghost cities and high-speed rail to nowhere that have now tens, if not hundreds of millions of people living in them. Like this is the central planning economy, like approach to fuck it. Give us your tech, give us your IP. We'll make you what you want us to make, and then outside of that, we will also make our own shit, and we'll sell it elsewhere in the world where you're
Taylor.
not competing
One would
with us.
ask if I were to sell you my idea and tell you how to use my idea. I would accept. I would hope that you would only do my production for me. How do these people get away with making fake products using IP?
Yeah, try suing the CCP, dog.
Yeah, one, try suing the CCP, and two, I'm not making Nike shoes. These are obviously Mike's.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just
they're
a little,
literally-
change the logo, change the name by a couple letters, and you're good.
Yeah, I mean, Western imperialist capitalism already bakes in a lot of protections for IP theft within the system itself in their home countries, much less one that really doesn't recognize their legal jurisdictions. Because, like, why would they? What are they going to do? Pull production out of China and then bring it back
Yeah.
to their populace that's going to cost more money? No, baby. Stonks are going up.
Stonks is rising.
Stonks are going up.
Like
We're
so-
doing stock buybacks. We're having CEO payouts and golden parachutes. We do not give a fuck about IP theft as long as it doesn't necessarily come to us and like directly interfere with us. And that's sort of the Shanzai, the mountain stronghold, the bandit camp. That place outside
Pirate
of
shit,
the,
huh?
I finally get it.
boundaries-
I get how it connects now. It's the place out. You've built a manufacturing place out in the mountains where nobody can touch you.
Yeah. And it's too much effort to go out and touch you as well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, whatever. As long as everything's generally good in the Imperial core, like, why do you worry what's happening in the mountain stronghold? Like, shit's good here. Like, people aren't upset and unhappy. They're not rioting or nothing. So they're getting their treats cheap and readily available and almost fucking immediately. They're not upset about it. So, like, why the fuck are they going to disturb the order of things as? And that's effectively what Shanzai is built around and upon. Now, there has been some rectification of this as China becomes more of a global power player. In 2017, Jaguar Land Rover did win a lawsuit for IP theft on
wow.
a blatant ripoff of the Range Rover Evoque. And that has somewhat, like, the Chinese government didn't fight it as hard because now at this point in time, in 2017, they've had roughly 30 to almost 40 years to... The industry's there. The factories are available. The skilled workers have been trained. So now when it comes to producing a vehicle, you may be making cheap vehicles in Shanghai at a GM or Ford plant with foreign money, or even a Toyota plant, for that matter. But now people know how to make things. Like, that doesn't get lost in translation. If you do a job every day, it doesn't matter like who the name of your boss is and what the name of the product you're making is, as long as it's the same fucking
Yeah, as long as you
thing.
know how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you still know how to do your job, and so that's what continues on. And that touches the world of automotive in a significant way. To touch back to my previous episodes, two of mine, both the Toyota War and the Chicken Tax, this is a product called the Prado.
And was that photo
On the
taken
left
in
hand.
Arizona, or do they have scenes like that in China?
Both
They
of
just
which
found some
actually-
cliffs and at sunset.
Both of which actually probably were taken not that far from each other. I would imagine the one on the right, the N180 third gen 4Runner, was taken somewhere in the American Southwest, whether that be New Mexico or Arizona, something of that nature. Whereas the Land Cruiser Prado might have been taken, you know, sort of in Central America, near like Guadalajara, Mexico, where you still have some sort of like a mesa and plateaus, things of that nature.
They're not
The
just
Prado-
ripping off like the product, but also the advertising,
Yeah.
as we saw before. You know, the box, everything.
This is the second gen that I have displayed on the screen here, the J90, but previously you have the J70 Land Cruiser Prado, which is based off of the J70 Land Cruiser, the vehicle that won the Toyota War, whether it be the like sport utility vehicle version that has a cover to it, or the Ute version that has a bed that you can mount an anti-aircraft or anti-tank gun into. That is the first generation of the Prado in 1984, 2 years before the Toyota War begins. And also the same year that in North America, the Toyota 4Runner is introduced to the market. So we do have to thank our like Midwestern auto dealer who made that deal with Winnebago to make the Toyota Trekker into coming up with a concept of the sport utility vehicle. The Toyota took the ball and ran with. They took from the Toyota Trekker in foreign markets where you don't have the Toyota 4Runner, the Toyota Hilux Surf, or the Toyota Fortuner, which is the 3 versions of the Toyota 4Runner. In those markets, you get the Land Cruiser Prado.
Interesting. A knockoff.
Okay.
It's Spanish/Portuguese for meadow or field. That is what Prado stands for. And it's what Toyota wanted to do to create something that was a little bit more, I guess, affordable and convenient for markets that didn't need a full-size Land Cruiser. They needed a slightly smaller vehicle that was just as capable in underdeveloped countries that may not have the best road systems. It still has a great 4-wheel drive system. It still has a reliable drivetrain that is easy to maintain and repair if you have even the most elementary or rudimentary knowledge of being a mechanic. You can fix these vehicles and you have something that you can get multiple people around with, which is super useful in a developing nation. So South America, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and now 25 years later, North America as well. Actually, the last time I was coming up to record an episode with all you boys, I live extremely in between my 2 co-hosts. One significantly closer than the other.
In between is a wild word for that.
Yeah. It's true, but it's not accurate. But I was driving up into the town in Skagit Valley where I also record my episodes most of the time when I'm not on vacation, and I saw a Land Cruiser Prado. And I was in my version of it. This is the 2nd generation of the Land Cruiser Prado, which is the N180 or 3rd generation Toyota 4Runner.
I feel like I have a dumb question, but I feel like I might have missed something. What country is Land Cruiser based out of?
A lot of countries. Pretty much all the countries in the world.
Okay.
Where Toyota is allowed to sell vehicles. They're kind of everywhere. It was Toyota's, if going back to my Toyota War episode, Toyota's effective campaign.
I did a dumb. I forgot that Toyota owned a Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
For some odd reason, I was thinking,
as they were looking to become a global, on the stage as an automotive producer, they offered a rugged 4-wheel drive off-roader into the developing world that didn't have the best of roads. And it was the Land Cruiser strategy that also allowed their passenger cars to prosper. Because if you go into a showroom, you know the Land Cruiser. Your neighbor's got one. He can get all of his family around off the piece of shit cobblestone roads that were built 800 years ago in the country that you live in. But now, hey, the roads are a little bit better than they were 5 or 6 years ago as you're rapidly industrializing. And now there's the Toyota Crown that's available there. You know the Land Cruiser, it's reliable, it's readily available. You know it, you love it. Now, hey, there's another offering available. And I just have a family of 4, so fuck it. I'll buy the Toyota Crown and I can get them around on our much more readily available roads that didn't exist a certain amount of time ago. Or I'm one of the new managerial class, so I don't have to leave the city. So I can just, live and love in a vehicle that isn't a Land Cruiser. And that's how Toyota was able to proliferate itself around the world. And the Prado, was a simultaneous attack along with, here in the North American market, the 4Runner. The first vehicle to be described as a sport utility vehicle in Car and Driver magazine. So it works. It's great. It's extremely successful, even in the 2nd generation, and on into further generations. I mean, even in the 3rd generation of the Land Cruiser Prado, that is sold in North America as the Lexus GX 470.
Oh wow!
So it inevitably makes its way to North America as well.
The new badge on it.
It's a Lexus now. It has a nicer interior. It has a V8 engine, guaranteed. But you can still buy an American 4th gen 4Runner with possibly a V6 and cloth seats. So they figured out a way to bring the Prado to America, but just as under a different, more luxurious badge. But still, in other countries, you can get the Prado without, with a cloth interior, not the same Lexus V8. You can get it with, the 2.7 liter inline four and a 5-speed manual transmission, the same configuration as my personal 4Runner. One of the rarer ones here in North America, but actually one of the most readily available configurations of Land Cruiser Prados elsewhere around the world. And it was so good, I can speak from personal experience, that you might want to do the old yank and twist. You borrow and then you steal, and the fact that like when you steal something, it becomes yours. When you borrow something, it's still someone else's. I'm going to take some creative liberty with this maybe Pablo Picasso quote and say that stealing is the more artistically authentic way of going about it, because when you borrow something, you're just borrowing something from someone. It is still that person's. But when you steal something, when you steal a Twix at the Walmart, it's your Twix now. It's not the Walmart's Twix. You got away with it scot-free. So you made it your own somehow. And I want to introduce you boys into the Beijing Auto Works Luba.
That's Alexis.
It's Thursday night ba.
Thursday night ba.
It's called the Luba. Beijing Auto Works, after all of the like reformations of Chinese Communist Party like state-backed companies to inevitably the ones that have a minority share in Western backing, BAW is one of the oldest Chinese auto manufacturers in the nation state of China, even to this day. And in 2001, the something else exciting happened that didn't relate to Two Towers.
Okay, I doubt it, but okay.
My
And this
ears
is for those of you who are Toyota heads watching this. Shout out to y'all. Love you very much. But this is the waning years of the third generation Hilux Surf, Fortuner, the 4Runner, or the Land Cruiser Prado, depending upon which market you are in. 2002 was the last year in North America for the third generation Toyota 4Runner. But in 2001, the second to the last year of the third gen 4Runner, you have a company that said, "Hey,
They said ball with the ball.
fucking vehicle. This is a pretty good truck. It's kind of capable of going places. We've done an all right job. Only in the year 2001, we bootlegged ourselves a 5VZ V6 engine that wasn't very good at all, but they did do a good job of recreating the 2RZFE and the 3RZFE.
What are those?
inline
Like,
four-cylinder
what's an
engines.
RZFC?
Those are 4-cylinder internal combustion
Okay.
engines. They run predominantly on gasoline, although some can be adapted if they're the L version to run on diesel fuel.
So they're just bootlegging engines left and right, where they're just like, how can we recreate this our own cheaper? What molds do we take?
And then you boys, we get the Roadhog. I've done several Google Translates, and once again, I am fully willing to admit that my stupid crackered ass isn't capable of like synthesizing East Asian languages into cracker speak. But from multiple Googles I've done, I've tried it from a lot of different angles, and everything comes up Roadhog. Roadhog.
The Luba is the Roadhog.
The Roadhog, the Beijing Auto Works
Nice.
Roadhog.
It fits.
Yeah, it was manufactured from the year 2001, which think about, dear listener and co-host, where you were in 2001. Maybe September 11th, the morning, roughly 9 a.m. Eastern time or 6 a.m. Pacific time. Think about that. The Chinese were adapting, in my opinion, one of the best sport utility vehicles ever made and getting it out to the consumers as a, like, this is something you can just buy. Like, this is something that's relatively new. It's a like less than 2-decade old phenomena of like being able to actually privately own a vehicle as someone who has the means to purchase one. And not only do you have one, you've got one that has relative fuel efficiency. It's got reliability. It has capability. It can get most everywhere you need to get a vehicle with its 4-wheel drive system, its 5-speed manual transmission, and its super reliable copycat of the R series engine that Toyota had been running for multiple decades. By the time that they had turned this bitch out, it was about 3 decades of the R engine. So they just copycatted that thing and then slammed it in there. The only difference between a Beijing AutoWorks Luba and my 4Runner is my 4Runner has about 7 more horsepower. Theirs is at least 2 years newer and probably a lot less beat up than my 4Runner. But yeah, it was an incredible success. I mean, they made it for 16 years. People bought them like crazy. It just got around. And this is, everywhere else in the world, Toyota had stopped making this vehicle. And for 16 years, this sold extremely well in the parts of the world that the Western imperial interest didn't choose to participate in. This was also sold in Russia as the BAW Land King.
Not the Roadhog,
Not
huh?
a Land Cruiser or a Roadhog,
They didn't like
but
Roadhog,
the Land
yeah.
King. And it only sold for 1 year. I don't know necessarily what the fallout is of that, though I did try to research it. But,
Sounds ominous.
So China was able to create an industry of car manufacturing off of this idea of like mass producing things using other people's IP.
yes. And they didn't just do it with my car, boys.
They do it with.
Well, I would like to
Well, they did it-
show
they did
you.
it with my car.
Okay, pause. This name pisses me off. Okay. I absolutely hate numbers with like the 45 BC Crown Victorian number 5 exclamation point 110. Hate it. This is visually the worst thing I could see in my life.
I watch too
Take
much
it off the
mecha
screen.
anime, so I'm used to names like this. This name's nothing.
Yeah, so this is the Baojun, which roughly translates over from Mandarin or
To
simplified
Roadhog.
Chinese.
Also Roadhog.
Not a Roadhog. It's the Tyrant.
Tyrant.
Now think about the Chevy Sonic, boys, and now put the name Chevy Tyrant.
That would be
on it.
good.
That's what they did in.
It is
lot
a
of-
short king.
It is.
It is a little guy.
But yeah, it's based off of the Chevy.
Dear
of-
listener, this Taylor, what Taylor is doing, and he hasn't made it quite apparent. It's apparent to all three of us recording right now. He has pulled up my car,
Yes.
the Chinese version of
Yes.
the car that I drive.
Yes, indeed, I have. And there's no one else that needs to be worried about this. Wink, wink. No
my
one else is
God.
going to have their car
Oh my
ripped
God,
off.
he's gonna pull up his own car. I cannot believe this.
And honestly, this is actually the least like Shanzai example I can produce of R3 automotive products because the name of the manufacturer includes General Motors.
It's
in
actually
it.
Genital Motors over there.
Oh, they're leaning. General Motors is leaning into like the copy stealing. Like,
Well, In
just buy
the
our
10
engines
pissing
and you
out,
could
then
do
out of the
whatever you
10
want.
pissing in.
But yes, elsewhere in the world, the Chevy Sonic, as we know it here in America, is sold as the Chevy Aveo. The Chevy Aveo that we were sold is now what we understand as the Chevy Spark, the smaller, shittier version of the Chevy Sonic. But elsewhere in the world, the Sonic was sold as the Avejo. It's very confusing and convoluted, and this
will not
actually
make
probably
sense.
was the most confusing part of research I did in this entire fucking podcast, was understanding the tentacles of how this fucking vehicle made it to the roadways of East Asia. But yes, so we have, it was made from 2016, so far after the Chevy Sonic was introduced to the American populace, through
A
to
handful of years.
2021, and it's a joint venture. So this isn't a direct ripoff. This isn't necessarily Shanzai philosophy. This isn't a Chinese company taking something that comes from, and it feels like a bit of a stretch to call Japan the Western world, but technically it is west of China. So the Western world, and just, you yoink, you twist, great artists steal, they make it their own, and then they put that vehicle out on the road for their consumers. They're rapidly growing middle class, like the gambits of the multiple 5-year plans and the 100 Flowers campaign and the Great Leap Forward, while extremely brutal to have been a person to live through those times, seemingly do have a payoff to them in terms of a burgeoning middle class that needs motorized vehicles to be able to get around to their jobs and the individual events of their private life. The shit that we do as Americans, where we burn a lot of hydrofluorocarbons out of the back of our fucking vehicles and make the world a worse place, but we get to see our friends and do a stupid thing that we wouldn't have been able to do had we not made the world a less environmentally safe.
Amen.
An asphalt covered
China now
hellhole.
has
China
an
now,
opportunity
welcome to the podcast
this.
game, okay, buddies?
So this is the SAIC, which is
Please
the
do not. You're gonna summon a witch or something if you say all that.
Shanghai Automotive.
SAIC GM Wulang Baojun.
It's a corporation combined with GM and a company called Wuling. They make the Baojun 310. And so it's a good passenger car. If you're in a city, it gives you 2 doors and you can have 4 passengers. It's fuel efficient. It's small. It's easy to park. It's super easy to get around in if you're in one of those ghost cities that Forbes magazine was ripping 10 years ago. That's now a city with 100 million people that would be, far bigger than one of our metropolises. And I do want to touch on one last rip-off. One knockoff. One
Show
last
us
thing.
it.
Greatest car in the goddamn world.
This
kinda
is
looks better
I knew
than
it.
the
I knew
Scion.
Great Wall was calling my name.
the Great Wall Motors Cool Bear and Havel M2.
That is a sick ass name, though. Okay, I'll give it to them.
They're
Fucking
both
Cool
pretty
Bear.
dope.
Cool Bear.
The Cool
Drive
Bear
the Cool Bear, dude.
is an almost direct ripoff of the first generation.
Although
Scion
that bottom
XP.
one, I mean, I know they're all probably the same kind of model, but that bottom one is very sporty.
That's the Havel.
That's the
Yeah,
Havel
that's
M2.
So that is the 2 on top are the Great Wall Cool Bear, which is what we're most familiar
Great Wall
with.
Cool Bear, yeah.
Great Wall Cool Bear, best vehicle.
Number one
You can
vehicle,
get-
yeah.
You can get the most grandmas into it. You can get the most fish in the back, and still get where you
You
need
could
to
slice up
be.
a polar bear and put it in the back there.
All with a terrible imitation of the 1ZZ or 2ZZ FE motor, which is nowhere near as good as the Toyota variant. But hey, you already kind of knew how to make one because they sent a lot of the steel manufacturing over to your country in order to cast these engines to then be sent to be assembled.
So,
in Japan.
squad, this is the Scion XP, which is the vehicle that I drive around this nation in. And yeah, it's a pretty good ripoff. Pretty good ripoff, I would say.
Pretty fucking
Yeah.
close.
This is nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the top ones are low to the ground enough. The front body, the front face is a little off, but
It's a little more Gen
Yeah,
2 Scion.
yeah.
Because they did start coming out in 2009, which by the time the American and European markets were already receiving the Gen 2 Scion at this point in time. But, the Chinese, they're like, hey, we don't need to round off the
Yeah.
back corners. We can still keep the
Keep it
boxy
boxy.
nature of the first generation. And then below, we have the crossover variant of the Cool Bear, the Havel M2, which, as you can see, it's got a little bit
more of
lift on it.
a tundra face.
Yeah, it can clear more
Yeah.
sturdy ground. This is supposed to be like, hey, do you live in a rural area? Not one that's insanely difficult to get out of, to get to the city or to get to the more suburban areas of a city nearby you. But hey, it's there, it's affordable. All of the vehicles that I've talked about already basically have the similar exchange rate as to their American counterpart. So the Lu Ba was the most expensive, being a Land Cruiser Prado or 4Runner variant, but your Bao Baojun 310s and your Great Wall Cool Bears, these are entry level cars in the North American market, and they reflected that in their East Asian counterparts. So these like really actually helped usher in the like era of like consumer individual family Chinese automotive products
Wow.
that were produced within the country and not imported elsewhere. Now, Chinese automotive is beginning to branch out quite a bit. BYD, the company that has a ripoff of the BMW logo, has beginning to open a factory in Mexico, and they're building electric cars, including the Yangwang, which is a supercar that like is comparative to multiple like the Tesla Roadster. So they're insanely rapid development in terms of like developing automotives has like mirrored the Western world and like caught up and surpassed it in some ways, and is beginning to now infiltrate the Western world. Thus why we're hearing about these 200% tariffs on Chinese goods coming into the nation, because we have inevitably come full circle in the sense of like, you know, there was Western imperial capitalist interests that gave up enough IP and enough technology to a cheap labor base that they effectively sold all their manufacturing and technological development. Starting to rain pretty hard here.
I'm going to close the windows.
I brought the Washington with me.
Oh my god. I could hear it a little bit. I just
Okay.
thought it was like static.
Are you going pee? All right, I'll get through mine, and then I definitely need to pee.
All right, we should be good.
Cool. So yeah, I mean these vehicles, the Baojun 310 and the Cool Bear and the Havel M2, these represent like a period of like readily available family vehicles for the Chinese like emerging middle class consumer. It was the product of multiple decades of Western imperial neoliberal capitalism, sending all of the manufacturing base and thus the IP over to a Eastern foreign adversary, supposedly, and they were able to copy the homework and make their own thing and use that to further help their development. And I find no fault with the CCP for doing so. If someone's going to give you a gift, you might as well like take advantage of it. If you really respect IP here in the Western world where they've tried multiple lawsuit attempts, like don't give it away. If you feel like you got a special sauce brewing, hold on to it. Don't fucking shortchange the people who are supposed to be your consumer base, and go to a cheaper, more effectively slave labor market,
or even for me
produce
it's
it.
like that's just the price of business. I mean, if you teach someone a skill whatsoever, they own that skill because they've learned it, right? Whether they've been
they taught
the
man
man
to
to
fish.
fish. Exactly, they taught the man to fish. So like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. I mean, you can't do the specifics of what I'm doing 100% what I'm doing. Sure, you can do 99%, 98%, 97%, but yeah.
That's good enough. There's still a lot of, now at this point, 23-year-old Lubas that are still road hogging.
Mine's gonna be at least 50
around.
by the time it crosses over the road.
Just like my 9099 4Runner is still fucking going strong. So, hey, if you're going to give them the secret sauce,
Don't be surprised when they make a burger with
when
it.
they start putting it on stuff.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Anything else? That's it? That's it? Any wrap
That's
up
it
for
for my
your part of the presentation?
Nope, not going to secretly
Good
tease
episode.
anything or nothing like that.
You ended on my car.
No next time?
Yeah. It's the cool bear, man. How do you end on
I don't
something
know.
better?
I really don't
I
know.
moved your
That is
I moved
fucking
your
pretty
slide
cool, dude.
to
That's pretty
last
cool.
because I knew that I couldn't do anything better than the fucking Great Wall Cool Bear.
Yeah, he's not wrong. But good episode. Good job.
Yeah, great job, great job.
Thank
I love
you.
the comparison. I love the we've been talking about it a couple days now.
I love the surprise.
Yeah. No, it's something I learned about maybe 2 months ago, and was like, okay, this is something, but it's not a full episode. I know we've been kicking around like everyone contributes
yeah.
something to an episode, so I was like, all right, this is my opportunity to bring in
the
Luba.
final thoughts. Okay, yeah. Well, let's move on to me then. Okay.
All right, To.
To. Can we do a thunderclap before we
Before we
TO?
TO, yeah,
Just
yeah.
so I have another one in the middle.
Are we To? Or should we do an
And after.
All right.
Before and
Doesn't
after, just so I can match it. Thunderclap. No.
You didn't see that.
I didn't see anything. I got you on the big screen.
All right, we're still recording. Cool. We are still recording. Cool. W's in the chat. Oh yeah. All right.
Yep.
Perfect. I think we have about 45 minutes till the next rainstorm comes in. Yeah, dude. That's how you do it. That's how you crush anxiety.
Yeah, dog. He's been giving you what? I heard like half of that during a Seahawks game.
Zach gave me. He's just got some like regular flower weed. He smuggled into the state of Texas. Like hitting a disposable pod or disposable vape
Oh.
for well over a year. The change up inevitably caught up with me. Okay, so I spent like most of the Seahawks game just like earbuds in to guided meditations while avoiding a big old storm of anxiety.
Oh, buddy, you had a day.
So, hey, you know, I got through my episode.
You did great.
But, you know, you do some guided meditations.
Hey.
Right away.
Hey.
Anxiety who? All right.
Never knew
Y'all ready to thunder back in?
It is nuts how much it's fucking
Hey,
raining.
dude, you want to see the map?
Texas.
gonna be all night. Red dot down here.
Yeah. So there's some waves coming.
Some of that
All-
Texas
yeah.
rain.
Which is apparently not all that common.
It's common enough in a season. I mean, we went all summer without rain, from like
Yeah.
May up until just like 3 or 4 weeks ago. No rain, just dead grass, dead everything. I'm dead. Y'all want a thunderclap in?
Yep.
Yeah, let's thunderclap. I know, I see you bound. Thunderclap!
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Perfect, man.
We are on. We are the
We've been
best.
on.
We are the best. Okay,
Yeah.
let me get late.
Yep.
Get it all in there. Okay. Gentlemen, now it is time for my portion of the episode. Zach's big update episode, okay? And we were doing this up until the end of the Seahawks game right before we started recording here. So let's just get started, okay? Shall we?
Presentations were done
Yeah,
before kickoff, but while the game wasn't all that interesting, we did a lot of our note
Exactly. So here's where we're gonna start today. And I'll preface this. I took a totally different approach than you guys did. I looked at all of my episodes and kind of updated a couple things. So we're gonna touch base on a couple things that are long. Some things are short. Some things are 2 slides. Some things are 1 slide. We're gonna bounce around to a lot of stuff. We're not telling one story here anymore. We're tying the bow on several other stories that we've already talked about. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
So we're going to start out with former Vine star and retired prize fighter Rob Nation of 5 hours. So
yeah.
maybe briefly we talked about this, but this is one of the most boring nights. It was the worst fight I've ever seen in my life of boxing, and I have not watched a lot of boxing in my life. But
I'll argue that it wasn't like there was definitely the 2 men who are on screen right now produce
Yes.
extremely boring content, but the rest of the card wasn't all that like not
absolutely, yeah,
entertaining.
it was.
I saw one of the best boxing matches I've ever seen in my entire life leading into this.
The female fight was amazing. It was
Serrano versus Taylor.
Serrano landed like
Super
over
controversial,
300
too.
punches. Oh my god.
It was an amazing boxing match. Truly, like, and it was insane because like watching the whole event, they hyped up that particular fight almost as much,
Yeah.
if not maybe a little bit less than Paul versus Tyson. But they were like, "Oh, this is our like true bell cow, fucking money making real deal."
Which I mean, it's
boxing.
kind of it's in the business I'm in where I tour around with musicians. It feels like the female fight was the up and comer that's about to bust. It's about to be like the biggest show on the planet, touring with the old like. Yeah, we're on the bill because we're going to sell tickets, but really we're putting over some folk. We're putting over some folk.
We're going to go
Yeah.
watch Frankie Valli mumble.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
This is a Tacoma Dome show where like you watch an old timer have an opening act that is about to
Something.
be, a top 40 hit.
Taylor Swift did that with Sabrina Carpenter. If any of our girlies out there are listening to this,
I actually have an example
yeah.
of this. Like during Ozzy Osbourne's first tour in Washington. Actually, no. It was actually during one of Frank Zappa's last tours in Washington. He brought on a fellow who wasn't wearing any face paint, who just had an acoustic guitar, and he introduced himself to the Tacoma Dome crowd as like, "Hey, I would like to."
I'm Ed Sheeran.
Before I come on, I'd like to introduce you, Alice Cooper.
Fun.
This is a story I heard from an
Fun,
old timer
fun.
recently at a flea market about how he saw Alice Cooper in like one of his first performances before he was Alice.
So you might wonder, we've never talked about boxing. We've never talked about Jake Paul. We've never talked about
No.
Mike Tyson. We've never talked about they're going to fight each other in Texas, in Dallas, at Jerry World for nothing, just money, and everybody has to watch it because we want to see Mike Tyson be Mike Tyson again. But this comes
Well,
into
that
play.
everyone got the fight for free.
Precisely. This comes
Kind of.
into play because Mike Tyson has some tattoos. Some interesting ones that I want to talk about that'll come up. And as we talked about earlier, Chairman Mao is involved in this slide.
May 100 flowers bloom on his right bicep.
Mike Tyson has a tattoo. We'll start on the far right side. We'll do Japanese style. We'll do right to left. We'll do Days of Grace was a book. So if no one knew, because we're kind of a generation removed from this, Mike Tyson was in prison for a rape. Not to bring the world down with that, because it's kind of a bummer thing. But he was sentenced to 6 years in prison, served 3 of them, and was on probation for 4 years, I believe. And in his time in prison, he did a lot of reflecting, and he found Arthur Ashe, who is a symbol of being a black athlete in a very white dominant sport, who had a death sentence. Mao, he found Maoism, and he found Che Guevara, who he has tattooed on his ribs. And these are all tattoos he got in prison. That's, if, dear listener, you're asking why would somebody who has claimed so many purses as Mike Tyson has some interesting tattoos like that, it's because they were done inside the confines of the United States prison system. So he found a very awesome understanding of Arthur Ashe, being that, if no one knows, Arthur Ashe was a tennis player who, during a heart bypass surgery, was given, it's believed, never proven, never anything, he was given infected HIV blood during a bypass surgery. So 11 years later, he, it began to show, and he became public about his battle with HIV/AIDS, and later died. Days of Grace is a book he wrote as a memoir of his final days that Michael read and found positivity inside of it, and how he could...
Or maybe more realistically, gay man who was unwilling to come out in an extremely homophobic world.
It's true. There's a lot of possibilities because we don't actually have the answer.
It's tragic both ways.
It's tragic both ways, exactly.
Absolutely. Like, regardless, it is tragic.
And he found interest in Mao from I didn't even write down. He just liked Mao's ideas and Mao's, he was kind of becoming a little bit of a communist. That's why he also has Che Guevara's tattoo.
May
100 flowers bloom on this young boxer who is
I just wonder
the best person.
How do you get a picture of Chairman Mao? Because I mean, I'd like to assume your tattoo artist in prison's good enough to be like, oh yeah, buddy, I can do. I know
Mao for sure, dude. I could do it. And
or did they, or what kind of hijinks had to happen to get a National Geographic picture of Chairman Mao?
I wonder.
I can maybe draw the lines a little bit with a guess. Reckless speculation. When Mike Tyson was in prison in the early 1990s, I would imagine that a lot of the people that he was cohorts with in the American prison system may have belonged to the Nation of Islam, which is not only like a Islamic organization.
The Nation of Islam is Islamic?
Socialist. But a socialist organization as
a lot of
well.
people knew Chairman's face,
Gotcha.
Mao's face. And he admired Che Guevara, and in a quote from 1999, he's after getting out of prison, he admired that Che had so much, and he gave it all up for the betterment of other people.
He's not wrong.
He also
At
wants
all.
everyone to know that he got it before the commodification of Che Guevara had occurred. So he's not a hipster poser. He
got it in 1999?
He got it in 1992 or 3. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it to him then.
Okay.
1999, I was about to be a real dick and argue it, but because that's when you have your red T-shirt with that exact image of Che like really blowing up on college campuses.
So that's just to bring Che back into the mix here. That's what I wanted to do, and so to move forward to another episode I did, we talked about the perfect sports stories, and this wasn't the subject of the story, but we'll get to that. But this was an example I put on board. It is LeBron James. LeBron James is a basketball player who played for the team he grew up rooting for, and then he left and then came back. And
then left again.
Left again, yes. And then at a certain point, his legacy was speculated to become, I want to be the first player to have my son play in the NBA with me. It's never happened before in the history of the association. So,
Oh, for real?
do you know who my father is? I am Bronny James. And LeBron James got Bronny James drafted to the team he plays for with the fifth from last pick in the NBA draft.
Not officially.
What do you mean, not officially?
Technically, the Lakers didn't, take the advice of LeBron James, wink, wink, to draft.
Not
Bronny
even.
James.
It's so. This is a case of.
He spelt advice out in $100 bills.
This is a case of nepotism's all right.
Yeah.
What's her name? Judy Buss?
Genie Bus.
Jeannie Buss did not take LeBron's
No,
advice.
they did. Here's the thing: is everyone is so upset with LeBron James because LeBron James controls the organization he plays for. Awesome. LeBron James got a new coach. Okay, let's sidestep here. LeBron James got his coach fired last year. LeBron James started a podcast with a dude named JJ Redick halfway through the season last year. The LA Lakers hired the dude he started his podcast with to become their coach. LeBron James controls a lot of the organization he plays for. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. He's won a championship doing it. He's won several championships doing it. I'm all right with it.
It also kind of fits into the history of the Lakers organization when you look at how the Buss family has treated athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson, who effectively kind of controlled the organization during their
So this is
tenureship.
about LeBron getting his son into the league. LeBron James, what was the day? LeBron is 39. Bronny James is 20. Bronny James played for USC. Excuse me.
Go Trojans.
He played 2 years in college, I believe, averaging 6 points, which is not good for someone coming into the NBA. And, I don't have the day here, but it was, I think, the second game of the season. LeBron James, as we can see here, bottom. If I get my notes, where is it? Turn on the pan. LeBron James sets a screen for Bronny James. And
Oh, look at them. Father-son duo.
Looks like two men hugging a different man.
they become the first father-son duo in the NBA to ever play at the same time in the NBA, let alone play for the same team. And on that day that it
dope.
was expected to happen, you have the Griffies courtside for LeBron and Bronny to create a day of history for the NBA, the way that they created for Major League Baseball. So that's just passing on down some sort of black legacy that you don't get to see much in the world. So you get to see here in basketball that these two families get to be something of notoriety in the sport that they dominated. They did a really good job for the sport, not just as an athlete, but as a political and social figure. So that's just a side note. We never did an episode on that. Maybe we'll get to LeBron James at some point. But during that episode where we talked about, I brought up LeBron James, I think twice in that episode, we did talk about Cal Ripken Jr. And there is something I found out recently about how he almost broke the streak, how the streak was almost broken. It was August 14th, and if you would not believe it, previously we talked about 2 instances where he almost didn't play. One was against the Mariners after a brawl with the Mariners that he felt like he hurt himself enough that he couldn't play, but he did. He booted up and he went to the field and played that day. This is also a story about the Seattle Mariners. Randy Johnson was scheduled to go on the mound that night, and at about 6 o'clock, the right field lights were broken. It's August. It's not sunsetting early, but it is going to become a problem for the first baseman to see when a ball's coming and for half the stadium to see what's happening. So they waited 3 hours and they called it a day. They were going to play a doubleheader the next day. So seems pretty standard. But there has been speculation that why is Kevin Costner here? You might ask.
Mr. Waterworld.
That is a very good, Mr. Tin Cup himself.
Mr. Field
The
of Dreams,
postman?
Mr. If You Build It, They Will Come.
Mr. Yellowstone?
Why is he here?
Because he's an American treasure, as Fox Media would want you to accept.
So, this photo was taken during the Dances of Wolves premiere. And there was a lot of speculation that Kevin Costner and Cal Ripken Jr.'s wife, who they then got divorced not too long after.
Wait. You just said two men and then wife. Was it they're both of their wives?
Kevin
was
Costner,
she illegally
there was
married to
speculation
two
that
of
Kevin
them?
Costner and Cal Ripken's wife. No, okay, I see how you structured the sentence. Yeah. Cal Ripken's wife.
Yeah.
Cal Ripken's
I did the
wife
same thing. I know what we're
and
talking.
Kevin Costner at one point met during the Dances with Wolves premiere and hit it off. So there was.
So it was the thing that I initially interpreted.
We're
it was
leading
Cal
into
Ripken
that.
Jr.
We're
and
leading
Kevin
into
Costner's
the
wife.
idea that Miss Ripken was having an affair with Kevin Costner, and the game was delayed because Cal could not show up to the field in time. He had caught them in bed the night before or during the day. It was either serving time in jail for an assault or that he had injured himself in a brawl with Kevin Costner that hindered him from playing that day.
Regardless, to tie this into one of Ryan's episodes, Cal Ripken Jr. found himself in the cuck chair.
And Cal Ripken, Iron Man, Mr. 2632 is no cuck, okay? But
But
I
do
don't
you
know about that.
see the way he's looking at Miss Ripken, though?
that's why that photo is
There
so
are
good.
no laws in water. There are no laws in Waterworld. So, I mean, how do we recognize like the sanctity of marriage?
So
He seems like the kind of person that would describe Dances with Wolves with you as you're walking out of the theater after having seen Dances with Wolves already.
oh yeah.
Have you guys ever seen my movie Draft Day? It's really good. I play the GM of the fucking Cleveland
Yeah, so
Browns.
anyway, the wolves. I was not. There weren't actually wolves.
and I didn't dance with
She
them.
called me Tatanka because I move a lot. Anyway, so there was speculation that there was an affair happening. Cal Ripken was caught them happening. But I equipped this photo because this was posted in the Baltimore Sun, I want to say, and it is dated to be from that post moment where the lights are half out. Cal Ripken is seen in the dugout with his manager at the time, and whether that means that he was injured at this time and could not participate in the game, or what have it. It has been debunked. There was a podcast that did a whole deep dive into this speculation, and supposedly it's false. But
Dang it.
Darn it.
She didn't get to learn about the rules of Waterworld.
Dry land does exist. I've seen it.
There's this thing that I can do that can siphon oil out of water, and I promise it'll help us with the Deepwater Horizon event. Y'all remember
You're gonna
that at
love
all?
it.
I know.
You're going to love it.
Do you
15
all remember
years
that?
from now. Yes.
With the massive... I know Ryan does, thankfully, because he was also delivering pizzas at the time and listening to News Talk Radio the same time that I was. But at one point in time, Kevin Costner had patented and trademarked the fucking machine for purifying water from Waterworld and had claimed that would help us with the massive oil spill in the Gulf.
I believe
in
him.
the Deepwater Horizon
I fully
Horizon
believe
event. And we were too cowardly to take his
So
advice.
sticking with baseball, we're gonna move to that other baseball episode I did, which was it was about the Alaskan Gold Panners and the Midnight Sun game. So
And the International Brotherhood of
the
Electrician
IBEW
Workers.
represented in Fairbanks there. So it happened again. They did it. Nothing stopped the Midnight Sun game from occurring. And the Panthers beat the Seattle Studs 10-4 this year. And I noticed social media wise, it did get a little bit more attention, which is awesome. The only reason I bring this up is because to me, it is such it's such a cool event that no matter how much I Google it, I can't find any artistic photos of this game. Like, it's always something very newspaper or like Channel 5 News, just covering the facts of it. There's no artistic representations of the Midnight Sun game, and I feel like it is a very artistic game to be played every year. It's very romantic, and we don't have the artistic representation of that. So, if any listeners are in Fairbanks that have attended this game, please make it artistic. Make art out of this moment. Make art out of this game. It is a beautiful game. It needs to be represented outside of sports, outside of baseball. It needs to be interpreted outside of that. That's what I hope to do with our episode, was to give it more life than just, we're going to the baseball game that happens every time the sun is out the longest and dips right underneath the hills. I want it to be told with a little bit more passion and how special that actually is. So that's why I bring the Gold Panthers back up. Nothing new happened. The game happened.
Ray Troll, we need you.
Ray Troll?
Ray Troll is a artist in like Western Alaska who has like several things like Spawn or Die, like the crossed salmons in an X formation. It's very popular.
I've never heard about
like Western Washington fishermen and like Alaskans, and like the restaurant I spent a good amount of time with during a layover night. Humpy's utilizes his artwork. He could do something about the.
So to keep with baseball a little further, moving along because we got something to get to. Super team wins it. The people that paid the most money to have the most best players did it. This kind of relates back to Chan Ho Park, who played for two teams that were in the playoffs this year. The Padgers, the San Diego Padres, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers ended up winning it. And in the culturalness that we represented in Chan Ho Park, who was the first Korean Major League Baseball player, Shohei Ohtani, who is a Japanese-born, it's not the same, he's a Japanese-born baseball player, highest paid baseball player, signed with one of the best teams, and he did what everybody kind of wanted him to do, was win the World Series and be the great person on the great team that was kind of the destiny for him. So it's kind of interesting, kind of romantic in that too, that these two teams that have a long history in California going against each other as rivals met each other in the playoffs in the NLDS, the second to last competition before you go to the finals, and beat the other team from the other league. Shohei got to have his beautiful day in the sun as one of the greatest players on the greatest teams. Mookie Betts is one of the greatest players. It's hard to say greatest player a lot in this slide, but this is a team of great individuals. Mookie Betts has won the World Series, I think, 3 times now with 2 different teams. He's going to go in the Hall of Fame really easily. And then Dave Roberts, who I believe is the first black and Japanese-born coach to win the World Series. And he did it back in 2020.
Oh.
Not affiliated with this.
Not at all. Not at all. Different Roberts family.
Darn it.
Absolutely different one.
But it's a lot of
can
interesting baseball representation in from Asia coming over to America, influencing Major League Baseball. And not that it's anything to spend time on, but it's an update in all of our information that we've had with our and then now, sorry I'm moving along so fast and not letting the room breathe with this. This is kind of just updates I wanted to get everybody through. And then we're going to have some time for discussion on some of these slides, which is what's happening next. A new stadium has been announced, guys.
Oh, for real?
If you build it or repeatedly ask for a big stadium, they will come or be forced to let you have it. So Morocco has wanted to build the Hassan 2 for
God damn it, Hassan Abi.
14 years. 14 they put a no, even longer. They put in a bid for the 2010 World Cup that they lost to
Oh, wow.
South Africa.
3 World
That's
Cups
exactly
ago.
it. So they've bid every time, and Morocco has not gotten the bid for them. So they have kept trying and trying and trying, and until they've finally been granted it, alongside of Spain and Portugal, they will host a communal area World Cup, kind of like what the United States is doing.
I was about to say, it's honestly, given like the consideration to what is it, the 2026 World Cup?
2026.
It's in America, like the distances between Morocco, Spain, and
Significantly
Portugal.
less between Dallas and Seattle.
Exactly. Yeah, like if you're
where
going to give
where's
one-
it happening? Where's it happening in America? Like I heard Dallas,
Seattle, is
Seattle,
one of the
Dallas, I
places.
think Philadelphia. I think there's going to be one in Miami. It's really
Damn,
spread
they're
out
spreading
across
it out
the country.
everywhere.
It's across the entire nation.
So this is actually going to be the biggest stadium in the world if it ends up getting built with the same dimensions that they've proposed it to be. It's going to seat 115,000 people and should be home for, I guess, the World Cup. And the Raya CA and the Wydad AC will play there, the national teams. No, Morocco. This is Morocco.
Or Raya.
Raja. Raja.
Raja.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's scheduled to cost 490 billion US dollars.
490
trillion.
billion?
I believe. Yeah.
Wow.
For just, I guess, like a bit of fucking context to our American viewers, I think the last major American sports stadium that was built would have been the one for Vegas, the Vegas Raiders, and then inevitably,
Latest stadium?
like that was
SoFi.
like
We talked about
rebuilding?
this. SoFi Stadium was the
Rebuild.
last football stadium.
Okay,
Yeah. And that was like 4 or 5.
but it was
billion,
like
yeah.
3 or 4 billion. This
Adjusted
is-
for
this is-
inflation, it's twice as expensive as the Apollo
crazy.
program.
That's insane.
So the Apollo program with inflation cost $500 billion,
Costs a $250 billion.
Wow.
$250 billion. Yeah.
So you could
So
have two.
half
You could
as
have
much.
two Apollo programs, or you can make
Today.
this. You can
We
make
could get rid of
this-
SpaceX.
You could have the Mountain Dew Stadium or whatever it looks like from the top over in the top left.
Ride
Oh
the
my gosh.
lightning.
The
The Mountain Dew Live
so this
Wire
will
Stadium.
host the 2030 World Cup games. A couple of them. But to get into the actual sauce of my portion, I've breezed through a couple slides here. In WNBA news, Diana Taurasi retires.
Hey.
This is the moments of her last time on the court. It was during the playoffs, Game 2 versus Minnesota. It's a three-game series, and they're, as we can see here, they're down 14 points, 2.5 minutes left. She's getting pulled out of the game because they're about to lose. So Diana Taurasi retires, or does she? So this is a new Instagram campaign that happened where they launched notes a long time ago and nobody liked it. It's just like something you could post of like really quick blurb like, hey, I'm going to be at blank tonight. Come hang out, or post a song that people can listen to. So they did this new campaign about 8 months afterwards that they've made it. And they got Diana Taurasi to be a part of it, and she posted one last dance. I mean, through emojis, the one up finger, one last as spelled out, and then a lady dancing. So no news has come out. She doesn't often post to Instagram or any social media. She stays out of that a lot. So no one knows really if she's trying to come back to the WNBA or if she is calling it quits. It's been over 20 years playing in the WNBA. No one blames her. Absolutely no one blames her if she wants to take it off. She seems happy with her family. But we're going to stick with the WNBA here because the New York Liberty won the WNBA championship.
That's true.
And if you listen to our episode on the WNBA, the New York Liberty are one of, I think, 5 teams, original teams. The Stars that turned into the Las Vegas Aces. They've moved, but other original WNBA teams have dismantled. And the Liberty are the last one of the original teams to finally win a trophy. And it was led by former Seattle Storm, Breanna Stewart, and Sabrina Ionesco. I've always pronounced it Ionesco, but I believe it's Ionesco from what I've heard from pundits on Sports Radio Talk.
But wait, there's more when it comes to the Liberty.
Is
and the
there more?
Storm,
What do you got?
who partially owns
Storm?
that franchise?
I don't know who.
No, the Liberty.
Super owns the
Super?
Liberty?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Partial
Really?
ownership, yeah.
I didn't hear about
Yeah.
that.
You're
I
our
know, this is
WNBA
blowing
guy,
my
Zach.
mind.
Yeah.
You got me to start watching. I watched the playoffs.
I was to
It
say,
was
like,
great.
I'm our least educated NBA correspondent at this point, and yeah. So yeah, you got 3 pretty pivotal Storm
Interesting.
players.
Okay. Well, 2. Only Sabrina did not play for the Storm. Only Bree did. Anyway, so Rebecca Lobo, if you remember from our episode on the WNBA, she was one of the pillars of the launching of the WNBA. Her, it was Swoops and Lisa Leslie. These were the women that were on the billboards that everyone was told in the big markets like New York, LA, Houston. These are your superstars. These are the women that are representing your city. But Rebecca Lobo never won the title. She got to the title game in the first year, as we remember, but they were defeated by the Houston Comets. 4 times over. The Houston Comets won, if you remember, 4-peat to start off the WNBA. Insane.
Absolutely
Houston was hot
dominated.
around that time,
Yeah.
regardless of the letter
exactly.
before NBA. Whether
Yeah.
it be none or W,
Exactly.
Houston was just
But
hot that time.
Fun for her. I mean, fun, just like a poetic thing to occur. She got to announce the WNBA finals and got to cheer for her team,
okay.
for her alumni, I would say, as they got to win. And I don't know if you guys got to watch that. I was in an airport watching it on my phone as it went to overtime, right, Ryan? You and I were talking about that.
Yeah. It was that picturesque, both team ties. This is the game that decides it, and it goes into overtime. And it was a nail biter for the last half of it and overtime, of course. But it was a good game. It was a fun game to watch.
I guess I'm the
Hey.
residential misogynist. I didn't pay
Bro.
much attention whatsoever outside of the box score. I did look in on
it. Was a lot of fun to
at the
watch,
time.
and I. To be honest, it was the most intense. Aside from the women's USA basketball versus France in the Olympics, it was the most intense game of women's basketball I've ever seen. I mean, it's not a lot of sporting events I will watch on my phone in an airport waiting to get on a plane, and that was something I saw that was occurring. I was like, I need to actually participate in this live. I need to know what happens right now. This is insane.
I mean, mind you, my heart was not in it because the
yeah.
Storm wasn't in it. So I mean, I was kind of had it on as obligation, and I was like, well, I'll catch it, and it was fun. It's a lot more entertaining than I don't know most sporting events I've seen.
Better
recently.
than that Tyson fight.
You don't see a lot of overtimes outside of the
Yeah.
one and done sport. Like when your championship is just one game, which is exclusively the NFL, my forte in terms of sports. You don't see many overtimes whatsoever, because there's one team that's significantly better. And so if you have a game of 5 or 7, a series of 5 or 7 games, inevitably the better
Yeah.
team is going to win out.
And when it's
without,
not,
forcing
and
overtime
when they're
in that
matched so evenly
tiebreaker.
that it has to come down to extra innings, dude. One of the first sports podcasts we did was the 500 Club, when we were in the background was the Cubs versus Cleveland, playing in extra innings in a Game 7 of the World Series, and both teams have never. The Cubs had only won the World Series back in like 1912 or 1920 or something.
It'd been
And
over
and
100.
Cleveland had never
Yeah.
won at all. So it was like going into extra. The neither curse wanted to be broken was impressive
Yeah.
for sports. It was sports poetry. Same with the Liberty finally winning. As much as I want there to be some sort of story to go on in sports that like Liberty can't win, or New York sports can't win a title unless Eli Manning's a part of it, something like that. I would love for stories like that to occur, but now we have to say we get to tie a bow on every original team from the WNBA has a title. They have something to prove their worth in the league. So I want to stay on the New York Liberty for a second, because when we think of New York, there's a lot of things that occur. I would say what comes to my mind is like Broadway, right? Broadway is something that you think about. I think of Times Square. I think of the Statue of Liberty. I mean, Liberty is in their name.
Your Brooklyn,
Bridge. So one of the things I found out recently, 20 years ago actually, to this season, the New York Liberty played at Radio City Music Hall for 6 games.
Oh.
This occurred
Wild.
in 2004 when Madison Square Garden, their home at the time, was chosen for Radio City, or for the Republican National Convention. And I see that my kerning is off here for my font, but it says Radio City Music Hall, as it would say right here, in case anybody is missing that.
yeah.
Maybe we'll do them.
In case anyone doesn't trust your
Yeah, in
photos.
case nobody trusts me.
I was
They're
here
fake.
not all that long after.
Really?
Like physically in that building. Not long after the Liberty played their game. I was there in 2005.
So yeah,
Early.
they only played the 6th game, so it wasn't like they played a whole season there. But they did sell out every single game that they played there, really padding their stats as a basketball team, because it was a capacity. It was like, it was a third capacity of Madison Square Garden, which I guess is like less than 10,000 people. So it's like probably 8
Yeah.
or 6, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Like theater, like
Musical theater, yeah.
or
Oh.
like straight up play theater. Their theaters don't have like.
But
a
I mean, look at
tremendous
this though. Look
capacity.
at the size of look at the amount of folk here though.
Yeah, no. I mean, Radio
Yeah.
City Music Hall is a huge theater, but still, that's less than 10K.
Yeah. So
for
this
sure.
added what was discussed about this. I mean, everyone was skeptical. In fact, at the time, the head of operations for the Liberty, I forgot to put her photo in here, and she was kind of a minor focus of us in the WNBA episode. Carol Blazowski, the Blaze. She was head of operations for the Liberty, and she was very skeptical on this occurring because it was brought on all of a sudden. They had to really shift things around. The court originally, no, it didn't fit. It was about 2 or 3 inches longer than the stage was. And you're setting up this risk
Yeah.
of somebody falling off the stage. There's no practice court. There's no...
The audience can only see one
which
side of the
brings
action.
us to our next
I mean,
slide.
that's okay.
Where we can see it from their perspective. And of course, we can see it from the opposite perspective as well. But I think I loved seeing this. One, because it demonstrates basketball as the theater. And 2, if you put a square around this, if you put another square around this,
Hey, fun fact, that's
and
called
if you
a
put a
proscenium.
dial right here and a dial right here, this is the game that is presented to you
Oh my
on
God.
television, which is a perspective. I mean, Taylor, as you know, it happens with football. The football perspective of the game through the television is the one people fall in love with. And when you go to the live event, it's a little bit different because you're sitting in the end zone. You're sitting on the corner.
You'll you'll never get a better seat than the one on your couch in front of your 75-inch
Exactly.
4K screen.
Exactly. So that's what interested me in this piece of history is one that this brand new league, I mean, they were shy of 10 years in the league of being an organization. They were inventing new things every day. That's kind of what we talked about at the end of the episode, that a sport that has always been so temporary was doing so many new things, like being very politically motivated and being very active in everything, to do new things, to readjust what we perceive sports as, and to be the front runners of the new thing. So during the 6 games that occurred, you had adjustments had to be made. What we came to find out was this is a music hall, guys. So when a band plays here, the noise goes out this way. Coaches had to stop talking during their timeout breaks because the audience could hear exactly what they're saying. It's an amphitheater. You have one instance of Swin Cash going for a loose ball and diving into the orchestra pit right there.
Yeah, it's a very, like, if you're like,
Yeah.
they even put some boards out in front of the orchestra pit. I've actually physically stood on that court, and it's not as big as you would expect it to be for a full-blown basketball game.
And these lights here created a problem when someone over here wanted to pass the ball to their friend over here. They would get lost in the lights.
Yeah, that shit happens when you're on
It
stage
does.
looking at the crowd as well. It just blinds the living fuck out of you.
So there were 6 games that occurred for the New York Liberty. There was one game that was an exhibition send-off for the 2004 Athens team, women's U.S. basketball Athens team. And they kind of leaned into the Radio City Music Hall theater of it. So you had... can I reset these? Okay.
We doing an all the world's stage.
No.
Theme
What we
here.
had was player introductions did not come from side stage onto the court, and they do their high fives and everything.
Yeah.
They came down the aisles from the crowd, and they climbed up on stage and did their introductions that way. You also had the Rockettes do a halftime show for everybody, doing the can and what have you. With the
They're just kicking up their legs, scuffing up the court.
Just scraping up the fucking...
And
Excellent.
due to the lack of crowd behind, for the production you had, as we remember from here, Rebecca Lobo, her first year at ESPN as a sideline reporter, was able to conduct bench interviews with players as the game was going on. Something very experimental, and then you start to see sideline reporters getting the coach interview, the BS of like, oh, what do you got to do out there, coach? But you could never get access like that because you were interrupting the presence of the game from a whole 180 degrees of paying customers.
I can only think of like one other example of a quote-unquote professional sport doing sideline interview in the midst of the action, and that would be Vincent Kennedy McMahon, rest in piss.
Yeah, you killed him? You already killed him?
His XFL.
Here I was like, he died?
Hopefully soon. But no, they did the like, hey, this dude just got carted off the field with a torn ACL. Let's put a microphone right in his fucking face as he is realizing that all of his athletic dreams have come to a crashing halt. And then that shit would be broadcast live throughout the arena.
Live hot mic too. That was fun. So what I love this because it creates the theater of sports, which is something that only exists in the fan's mind. It is the bridge between the reality of the sport and the theater of the sport. And here we have it on display fully. There's no hiding it. This is on a theatrical stage. The sport is being played. The only thing that is different is our prior knowledge that this is a real competition. If this were to be a play about basketball, we couldn't tell the difference because the presentation of it is that of theater. the staging of it is that of theater. The place it takes place, the space it takes place in is a theater, and it's beautiful that the opportunity was given to have the theater of basketball be played in an actual theater. Makes more drama for the sport, and that's what I really liked about learning about this. And it happened 20 years ago, and it hasn't happened since, but it could happen again. And it's a part of a history of the WNBA expanding what they can do. Which brings us to our next slide. When they played, the New York Liberty played in Arthur Ashe Stadium. Bringing up a previous slide of Arthur Ashe, a tennis player that has a stadium namesake. The New York Liberty played the Indiana Fever for the first outdoor women's basketball game and the first non-tennis game to be played at Arthur Ashe Stadium. And it was a simple exhibition. Proceeds went to Cancer Survivor Foundation, something like a Susan G. Komen or something a little bit different than that. But it was put on for an organization, and 19,000 people ended up attending, which is close to what Madison Square Garden would be for an attendance. And another another moment of time where the WNBA took steps in a direction of being significantly different than their counterparts and to distinguish themselves as their own league. And not much else to say about the New York Liberty, but there is a final slide I have for you guys to wrap up this whole episode, kind of teasing what one of my next episodes will be. And it is Last Perfect Man Part 2. Do it in the World Series. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a perfect game in the World Series that you don't know about. And I'm going to tell you about it.
Cannot
I
wait.
don't believe you. You're a liar.
Big if true, Zach. Big if true.
Y'all have to wait, but
Huge if true.
it's undeniable.
As someone who knows ball,
Yeah?
that ball being baseball, certainly out of the three of us.
Yes,
I'm
you
the
surely.
winner.
Yep.
You're a liar.
I won't take it. No, there was a perfect game in the World Series, and we'll talk about it on the.
It was sponsored by
Go.
Brazzers.com.
That's the
what
only
I'm
reason
seeing
I
in the
didn't-
background there.
Black that part out. Yep.
Oh, good job,
Yeah, it
boyos.
was a fun time, guys.
Good job, Zach.
Thank you.
So that's my update. That's my update on some of the episodes I've done so far. I appreciate y'all hanging tight and listening to my rambling ons, my updates, my new information I found out about the New York Liberty, about a new stadium being built. Mm-hmm. About Cal Ripken possibly been debunked, being cucked.
Being cucked.
That is exciting.
Taking a ride.
And
in the
until
cuck chair
you
like
said
Michael
no,
Collins.
it's been proven that it hasn't. Like, leave me with my good lies. Zach.
Yeah, I should have. I should have left it on a cliffhanger like that. Yep. So appreciate you.
But no, I'd like to do more update episodes every now and then. I don't know, just to get those little actual update episodes. I'll try my best not to just do a separate mini one. But
Dude, I feel you. Like, I got way too stuck in the weeds where it's like, okay, I have to explain the political climate of China and how we got to the point where they're just ripping off Western industry. And it's like, well, nope, I could go down a full fucking 8-hour fucking road describing the life of Mao Zedong
Yeah.
and the rise of the CCP and the People's
Yeah.
Republic of China, but it's like, nope,
Yeah,
you
just
just gotta
gotta-
gloss over that shit and then get to the part that's
Yeah.
relevant to what I've already talked about.
yeah. But more of these would be good. I'd definitely be down. I don't know about you guys. Not the shop talk in the end of this thing, but you know,
No,
it was a fun
I
experience.
had my first idea for an update episode was entirely different than what I presented today. So
Oh,
I still
same.
have another one.
I
in
did
the
exactly
chamber.
what I thought I was going to do. So I went out there and gave 110%. Left it all on the field.
Left it all on the field.
Dang.
Can I have another White Claw? Oh,
Yeah.
we have a post game wrap
Yeah.
up here.
That's all we got too is White Claws.
You can have any beer you want as long as it's a White Claw.